RealTuners Radio.
Are you interested in learning how to tune electronic fuel injection live in person with the guys from RealTuners? We have 2-day courses in dyno shops across the country. Register for all of these at RealTuners.com. Click on RealTuners Live Classes. If you'd like to bring 2 or more people, talk to us about group discounts. For more info or to make a reservation, go to RealTuners.com or message us at RealTuners LLC on Facebook. Learn how to tune your own standalone EFI systems like Holley, FuelTech, Megasquirt, Fast, and others on the chassis dyno. Includes topics such as traction control, individual cylinder tuning on a budget, and power adders. Upcoming classes with available seats are as follows. EFI Essentials in Detroit, Michigan, May 12th through 13th, and May 26th and 27th in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Then Holley EFI Essentials at 417 Motorsports in Springfield, Missouri, June 9th and 10th. And an Essentials class covering all standalones at Nitrous in Kansas City on July 21st and 22nd. These classes are designed to help you get your project running successfully in a course taught by people who've actually done this kind of stuff for a living.
Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to RealTuners Radio, episode 44. Thanks for tuning in. Tonight, we have returning guest David Vasser from Nitrous Outlet to talk Nitrous Tech. Also, keeping you entertained is the usual panel of hosts, including but not limited to Chris Delgado of ProSpeed, John Bewley from Little John's Motorsport Solution, Tom Sewell of Fuel Injector Development, James Short from Shore Tuning, Mark Dahlquist from Throttles Performance, Bill Fowler of Bear Brakes, Scott Evans from Helix Tuning, Tom Vigue from Brian Tooley Racing, Cody Bruce, Nano Nitrous, Chad Reynolds from Bankshift.com, Mo Loans and Cody Bruce of Nano Nitrous, and the star of the documentary Driven Blind, Dan Parker. A movie so exclusive, even he hasn't seen it. And this guy, Rye Klemp, Bull City Speed. And now, the most prepared man in performance automotive podcasts, Scott Clark, RealTuners. Too soon?
Oh my God! Did you really do that? I'm not,
Dude,
I mean,
now, first off,
it just happened.
In my defense, Dan's a good sport. Now, I literally just got off an airplane like, let's see, exactly 30 minutes ago, that plane touched down, and it's 20 miles away from my house, and I had to get my bags. It was horrible. The girlfriend super pissed at me for, I'm in the, I'm in jail tonight.
Oh, yes.
Oh, balls. Oh my goodness!
Oh, I'm fucking crying.
Now, I
crying.
think Dan actually has a migraine, and he
listen.
might not even be on. I gave him the number. I was like, "Join in if you can." He's like, "Man, I'm sick. I don't know." Hold on. In fact,
And
he
Dan,
just
if you're
messaged-
listening to this in the future, we love you, buddy.
no, he's listening. He's trying to get on. He just texted me, "What's the meeting ID?" You got to do it via text. 1 second, Dan. I'm working on it. Hold on, buddy. Talk amongst yourselves, right? Well, I get Dan on
Well,
here.
maybe you can just send Dan the link directly to the Ring Central because he'll have no problem transcribing that.
No, that's the
Jesus.
problem. I sent him the monster link. It's funny. He's like, "What's the meeting ID, dude?" He's like, "I need a
Hey,
number."
I'm on here now.
Oh, he's made it. He got it.
Right.
Holy shit. Awesome. Dan, how you feeling, buddy? Is that migraine still with you?
You there?
Yeah. You still got
Dan?
that migraine? Can you hear us? We hear Dan. He don't hear us.
And he's gone.
Piss. Hold on. I'll message him back. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll get him back on.
He heard the intro.
You guys typically have Cody, and last minute you got me instead.
Right, Mr. Malone.
We like you better anyway.
All right, so I went blank. I'm back.
There he
There
goes. Welcome back. Dan, so dude, awesome movie. You're like a movie star, man.
That was amazing, Dan.
Oh man, I appreciate it, man. That was
God.
it was cool. We played it last night at the high school. We had about 50 or 60 people show up.
Yes.
Man, it was a good time.
That
man.
had to be
It was
super
good.
cool because I watched the PBS version of it and I was like, holy crap, this guy's famous. You are definitely going to come teach some of my classes. That's the bottom
cool.
line. Yeah.
And so now to be played on PBS, soon to be distributed PBS nationally. So it'll get a lot more airtime. It was on World Channel, which very few people have because it's a digital antenna channel, but nobody on their cable box has it hardly. But it was good. I was proud of it. That turned out really good.
Take a look at Scott Clark's Facebook page. There's a link. I put a link up for it. Hold on.
Yeah, I've been pushing it to everybody on my Facebook page too.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
No, it was awesome.
Except for the daggum leather shrink. when I read the
shrink.
Yeah, that's it. It's the air conditioning. That's what done it.
Right. No, the shrinking leathers is pretty funny. So I've got that problem too. All my clothes shrink. I don't know what the deal is.
Yeah. But yeah, it turned out good. I just came in the shop. And guy came over, did some welding for me tonight. So it's been a good week.
Very cool. No, it was neat to see, man. The guy did a real nice job on that video, the documentary. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, that was his thesis for his master's in fine arts and film at Wake Forest University.
Cool.
And that job helped him get a job. Now he's teaching film in Honolulu, Hawaii.
Nice.
So
good for him, man.
Yeah, it turned out good.
All I could think about was this guy did 3 little half turns and he had more fun than I've had in an entire day in an amusement park.
Right?
Yep.
Every day's an Easter egg hunt. I'm still laughing my ass off at that. Holy shit. But,
yeah, if you're going to be dumb, you better be tough.
Yeah.
I tell folks, if you don't have any patience, I don't recommend going blind.
Right. Well, I don't recommend it to anybody, but it's interesting. That's I love the attitude, man. I hope you're feeling better too. I saw the migraine complaint today.
It's doing a whole lot better. That second batch of medicine I took this afternoon finally kicked in, so I'm doing a whole lot better now.
Nice.
Man, I was still struggling at 6 o'clock at night, but I feel fine now.
Good.
So,
good.
Have y'all talked about last week at the Arkansas Mile yet?
No, we haven't. Talked about nothing.
Can't wait to hear about that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, first off, did you know Charles Winslet, Bubba? Do you know Bubba? He's known you for a long time at the local track down there. I guess he knew who you were, but anyway, he's our local prep guy up here at Cordova now. They moved him up here last year to be the prep guy at Cordova. Anyway, he said hi. He's going to give a shout out to you.
Okay, cool.
But he's like, man, I knew who Dan Parker was for a long time. He's followed you forever. He was a big fan. So that was kind of cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. But, well, I guess ride stuff you want to talk about in the news? And I mean, I can talk about what I've been doing the last 8 days. Oh my God.
I didn't really, man, it's been slammed this week in personal life, and everybody in my house has been sick. So I want to know about how it's the East Coast Timing Association's first event down in
Blytheville.
Blytheville, Arkansas.
Blytheville, Arkansas, which is the former home of Eaker Air Force Base, which was shut down in 1992. So it's a ton of giant buildings. I mean, that was a huge base, and it's all these abandoned buildings, or some of them are used. There's like a commercial airplane graveyard on spot. There's like 50 big giant MD-80s or bigger planes that are parked there. It's kind of a cool, eerie place or whatever. But they have autocrosses. There's a big autocross meet there a couple times a year, and they do some standing mile stuff there. And now that's going to be the home of the East Coast Timing Association. Which is, if you remember the Maxton Mile or the Ohio Mile over the years, that's their new home now, which to me is cool because it's a heck of a lot closer to me personally. Getting there is a lot easier for me. But anyway, so my story, I got to tread carefully here. Well, so go back to January. We had a RealTuners class at the end of January in Palm Bay, Florida at Trick Pro Motorsports. That's TJ Shantz and Bryce Cumis' shop. Okay, cool guys. It was a nice class. It was like 15 people. Mike Perduto was down there. Curtis Forsberg. We tuned the Gold Dust car. We tuned Gold Dust, his mod motor, crazy SN95 Mustang, and then we also tuned Dave and Mike Matajasic. Their last name is hard to pronounce a little bit, but it's Matajasic. We tuned their car, which is a really nondescript second-gen Camaro, okay? And it's kind of funny. It's kind of patterned as a joke after David Freiberger's F-bomb. right? The F-bomb is this like $1 million build, Tom Nelson motor, blah, blah, blah. It's been out twice. It's run like 20 minutes or whatever. I'm going to get a phone call after this, I guarantee
It
it.
went 890s.
Yeah, it went like 890s or whatever. Well, back when 890s were flying or moving, I guess, whatever. But
Not really.
it wasn't built to be a drag
photos.
car. Well, let's not beat up on Freiberger. He's a cool dude. So their car, instead of the F-bomb, it's called the Time Bomb, which is hilarious. So you got to look up Time Bomb Land Speed Racing on Facebook. And I really need to get the Matty Brothers on here. In fact, I may try to get them on later tonight if things slow down. But so anyway, this car, it's a 2-time winner of the Hot Rod Magazine Top Speed Challenge. Every year at the first or inaugural East Coast Timing Association meet for the year, Hot Rod Magazine puts on a top speed challenge for 3 different classes of street-ish cars, if you will. And it's become really popular and a really a tough, hotly contested class or whatever. The Matajasic brothers have won it twice, I think in 2007 and in 12, maybe.
Eric Yost that we had on last week, he's won it before as well.
He's
right?
won it. Yep. And I mean, it's fast. It's 205 to 220 mile an hour, 221s, I think, are kind of the numbers that win that. And that's a standing mile. It's basically a mile long drag race with a trap at the end of 1 mile marker. And weather conditions play a huge factor in this. We had a 20 knot quartering headwind, which was tough. And anyway, so the first 2 days of this meet in Blytheville, there's Bewley pounding away in his keyboard. He's doing work. I love that you're doing work, brother. But anyway, so
gotta get it done sometime.
no, you do good, man. And it's funny. The dog's barking in the background, the kids making noise in the background. I think that's cool. I'm okay with the background noise. I'm over that. But anyway, so the first 2 days of this 3-day event, weather was pure, just dog crap. It literally was like 42 degrees and 40 and 50 knot winds the first day, or 40 knot winds. Then the second day, it rained all day. Nobody got to make really any passes. They let a couple of slow cars go the first day, guys. And here's the thing that sucks. Every car out there, since it's a new meet, new location, every car has to make a checkout pass under 175 miles an hour, right? So everybody had to get in one check pass, as well as then try to go make a wide open hit. Well, bottom line, we find ourselves out there, let's see, I guess it's Sunday morning, last day of the event, and we'd made one checkout pass. We went like 127, easing into it, kind of playing around, getting some data. And then I guess our big competitors, Clark Rosenstengel, you ever seen his car in Drag Week? Super badass 5th gen Camaro. Oh, Steve Morris power. He had Ryan Whitty from Holly out there on site tuning on it. I mean, these guys
won
are
in his class in Drag Week.
Yes, exactly. These guys are big players, right? And that's a cool car, and I'll give him credit. It is built more for Drag Week than it is for the mile. Now, the Matajasic brothers are the exact opposite. This car could be duplicated for like $1.29, right? It's kind of there's nothing wrong with it. It ain't ugly, but it's a down and dirty serious car. It's got twin master power, 70 millimeter turbos from like 1998 or some shit. I mean, it's just all this. People were actually poking a little fun of it at the class. They're like, oh man, well, those turbos, I remember when those were popular, and but anyway, just people were giving them crap, but the thing laid down like 1150 on its second pass on the dyno and on the Superflow dyno at TJ's shop and Trick Pro at my class. So anyway, we had our check pass in. We're the next car in line for like 3 hours waiting on the wind. Keith Turk's got his little wind thing. They got a guy in the airport tower that checks the wind there. And they're like, nope, the winds are 20 knots. They're gusting to 20 or 24 mile an hour or whatever. They got to be steady, less than 15, I think. Gusts no more than 20. And damn it. And I'm parked beside them at the start line in the rental car. I fell asleep for like 2 hours. All I know is at some point in time late in the day with an hour to go, I hear this. Somebody's banging on the window. Hey, Clark, we got to go. We got to warm the car up. Oh, okay, cool. Start the data logger, whatever. Fire it up. And they have a push truck, pushes these cars off the line. I believe Rosenstengel's car drives off the line by itself. They do credit where it's due. Legit street car. Probably, it's definitely more street worthy than our stuff. But again, 2,500 horse Steve Morris engine. So we're not going to feel too sorry for you, Clark. But anyway, So, I should back up. Now, Rosenstengel, Clark, got an opportunity to make a pass during a break in the wind earlier that morning, and he bangs out a 220-mile-an-hour pass. And he's posted on Facebook. That's fastest speed of the meet at that point in time. That's tough. We're like, damn, man, a J6 car, the best it's ever been is like 215, and that was on a SB2 motor with spray or something. Just some crazier combo than the near stock LS with turbos that we have now. Well, so anyway, fast forward to on my window, and they're like, we gotta go. The wind, they're saying the wind died down a little bit. It was still 20 knots, but and it was a quartering headwind. I'm like, well, we're not gonna go fast. Well, Dave fires up the car, and for those of you can get on my Facebook and you can check out just the Scott Clark's Facebook. There's some posts, or the Time Bomb Racing. You see the results, the in-car video with the telemetry overlay. But Dave banged out a 227-mile-an-hour pass, grabbing gears. It's a 4-speed car. It's got a T10 in it, Super T10.
That's good shit,
dude.
Hell yeah!
Oh my God, you got to watch that
T10.
video.
Holy cow!
Yeah, dude, I know, right? And I don't even know. And
wow.
I mean,
is it an iron case too? Is it iron?
More
case?
likely. Oh yeah, I feel sure it is.
I think it is. It's some old junk, dude. And check this out. I'm gonna blow a little secret. I'm like, well, what clutch is in that car? He's like, we buy used Tilton's takeouts from the NASCAR guys for $120. Shit you not. And so, and I mean, these guys, they're doing the best they can. Well, here's their advantage, right? They were friends with Bob, the guy that runs the A2 wind tunnel in Mooresville. And that car has a lot of Aero knowledge. That's all I'm going to throw out there. For example,
that nose shows that off.
It's
I mean,
ugly
what they did
as
with
sin.
the headlights, it is.
It's ugly as sin. And you know what,
life.
dude? You know what the CD is on that? Did you? I'll tell you. He told me.
I don't even know. What,
1.19.
0.19. Nice.
Yeah. You want to know why that thing goes 227 on LS power? It ain't the power, dude. It's the Aero.
No, it's an Aero.
Yeah.
Heck with that nose. The nose, if it's ugly, chrome don't get you home. It's there for a purpose.
No.
I wish I could.
Your new goal right there, Dan. Go faster than that guy.
Michael says it's a GF4A G-Force now.
Oh, okay. Got G-Force transmission.
Oh, it is a G-Force? He said that? Okay, so I thought it was a Super T10. That's how he had that before at one point.
Yeah.
So even
he
worse.
He says it's a GF4A.
Okay.
I tell everybody to come out of a dump truck.
So when wind's not a factor, how long does it take if like the cars are flowing through there pretty quick? Like from you're in the pits, you're like, okay, I want to go make a hit. How long does it take you to get in the line and get up there to make a run?
So it depends on the number of people. A lot of people went home and gave up on the weather, and there was 90 some cars signed up. I'm going to say there was 25 or 30 left hammering it at the end of the day Sunday. And dude, a car would run, then you'd wait 15 minutes to an hour, then another 3 or 4 cars would run, then you'd wait. I mean, it was how that worked. So it was just touch and go. It was tough. But at some point they were letting slower guys go in the wind. They weren't too worried about guys that go 130. I mean, there's classes out there that guys don't go 100 mile an hour. I mean, it's pretty cool. There's little 2-stroke motorcycles and stuff, and little, there's a lot of some fast bikes out there. The bikes, it was too windy for them to go really fast. That sucked for the bike guys. But the Aero advantage that Dave and Mike had was okay in the slight cross headwind. And I mean, you watch that video, you can tell he was doing everything he could. Now, listen, I didn't have the traction control because we didn't have a front wheel speed sensor yet. So literally, and I'm like, well, we can try ramping some boost, but I was afraid to ramp it down too little because the worst thing you want to hear as a tuner is, man, I was in it all the way in first gear. You know what I mean? So we had like 24 pounds at the hit, up to like 28, 29 at the end based on wheel speed. That was the best I could give him. It was super rich. It was super safe on timing. There's probably another 100 horsepower, 150 at the wheel left in that combo that I'd feel safe with.
Looking at the telemetry, it was way rich, but it looked good overall.
That's on C16. Here's what's funny. A lot of guys are like, damn, how do you get it to fire in the low 11s on C16? Notice the air fuel ramps down over time. That's that deal where when the chambers get hot, burn rate goes up faster and you can pull back timing and you can dump more fuel to it to keep things cool and it'll stay lit. So it's a little bit tricky. Oh, also, they burn a plug wire at the 3/4. They burn a plug wire and drop number 7 hole. And he felt it. He's like, damn, it starts nosing over. And you can see it at the midway through 4th gear, it starts nosing over a little bit. Well, but thing went 227, 10 mile an hour faster than its best time ever. They are believers in the power of the inexpensive LS. Engine builders are cursing us everywhere. But
yeah, given that extra plug wire, you got another maybe 5 mile an hour on that.
That's
easy.
what I was thinking. And also if we can get him through the first couple of gears without all that wheel spin and dicking around, there's a full second of just goofing off with tire spin.
That car will go 240, 245.
Wow, it's geared for 240. I think is what he said. I think it's geared for 240.
Better raise the rev limiter a little.
Yeah.
I'm going to just invite him on the call here. You guys talk amongst yourselves.
Just tell him, just listen, just let me do a cam for it, and we'll give him some of that John Michael Capizzi upper limiter training. And
that's what he needs. We need to be able to rev it to 8,200. Yeah.
He says it's geared for 249.
Go 249. Okay, cool. I just invited him. Matt and Jesse, get your ass on the call. Dial in that number. Give him the phone.
Both of them are in the comments on Facebook. Michael and David both.
I'm going to send both of them this link.
About a year, probably about 6 months ago, I saw the video. I ain't gonna name his name, but a Corvette guy, he went like 190 on 4 pounds of boost, in a mile or something like that. I can't remember if it was a half or standing mile. Well, his next pass, they put like 24 pounds of boost, and you hear it just smoking the tires, way down the track. I'm like, why do you go from 4 pounds to 24 pounds?
Yep.
You could probably go to 10 pounds, do what you needed to do to go over 200, I don't know. Everybody races their egos and start racing smart.
Yep.
They probably had one pass left and said, just send it because they didn't have time to go
that
through the steps.
That was kind of our situation. And they're looking at me and No.
They had several passes on this thing left after that.
Then they're learning lessons,
man.
Yeah. They're learning lessons. Did we all start there? Come on, everybody. Have we all not done stupid shit like that?
Yeah.
But everybody does here's my week check, and now we're just going to throw everything at it and try to make everything work every pass.
Yeah, throw the kitchen sink at it.
Everybody does that mistake.
Yeah. Nah,
sometimes you got to turn it down and make baby steps.
Exactly.
I put what we thought. I mean, we tuned that car as a group, so I ain't taking any credit for the tuning. Perduto has as much time working on that as I did, and he's a nitrous guy. But
hell, don't admit that
I'm
shit.
gonna blow his ego up, but he knows. We passed the laptop around. By the time that thing was done, I wasn't touching the keys at the class. These guys were all tuning that car, and it was neat to see him send that off and all the class. And we gave a shout out to the guys in the class that at the end in the video that we made that's going on Bang Shift and Hot Rod and all this stuff tomorrow. But
that's cool.
Yeah, no, it was super
true.
cool.
I didn't even tune it.
Right? Hey, who is that?
All the students tuned it. This is David. All the students tuned it. I actually never even touched it. I was just trying to get the car ready for polls, and everyone else was typing on the keyboard and loading cells. So it was really cool.
That's the way about every one of the classes go.
I'm in here, baby.
Yeah. Welcome aboard, both you guys. Yeah. So I don't know. Correct all the mistakes I made. Tell the story. Start from the top. We can hear it again. We got people are all logging in and listening anyway. But long story short, I'll introduce them. These are Mike and Dave Metajasic, the winners of the inaugural 2018 Hot Rod Magazine Top Speed Challenge at the East Coast Timing Association, Blytheville, Arkansas 1 mile challenge. Woo, mouthful. Welcome aboard.
That was a lot.
Yes.
Say that 3 times fast.
No.
Yeah, so I guess I can give you kind of the background of what the setup is. So it is a GF4F G-force clutchless transmission in it, which is how it pops off shifts in like a tenth of a second, which is pretty fun in the car. As far as the Ghetto turbos, they are Master Power turbos from around 2009. And then there's 70 millimeters, and I had them.
Oh my gosh!
I had them custom. I custom ordered them with, I believe it's .96 AR exhaust sides, so they'd be pretty laggy, so they wouldn't.
Called the tractor company, right?
Yeah, well, I didn't want the turbos to spool way down low because I knew it would just annihilate the tires on the concrete.
Right.
There's just no traction out there, so. That's why they're kind of laggy, but it's kind of cool to see at the end when, there's only 30 pounds on the dome and there's 27 pounds of boost. So they're not that crappy.
And you got a 5-pound spring in the gate.
Yes, sir. Like a 4. Like a 4.
Like a 4.
Yeah, it's like 4 pounds.
That's awesome.
Yep. And then it's it's a stock cast iron 6-liter block that's 30 over, and then unported 317 heads with pack valve springs and Jezel rockers. That's it.
Cool.
Hydraulic roller or solid?
It's got a low lash cam motion solid in it.
John's gonna fix you up next time.
Because I'm hard of seeing, what is the chassis?
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah.
Completely factory stock. So it's got a coil and a half cut off the coil springs in the front.
Well, wait, it's a what year Camaro is it? It's a second gen Camaro.
Oh, it's
Okay.
71.
Yeah. Okay.
71. Yeah.
And what
But it's
tires are
basically
you
all
running?
stock suspension.
What
It's got R7s in the back. We were running drag radials, but I was starting to get scared of the speed and the temperature, so I switched this year, assuming that we were going to start getting up into the 20s plus.
Do they have is there a rule at the East Coast Hemming Association about drag radials? I know like Texas Mile, I think, was one that kind of banned them for a while. I don't know if that rule still stands or not.
There's not, and there are guys that have gone in the 230s. Hopefully, no one from Mickey Thompson's on listening to this, but there are guys going well into the 230s with drag radials. I'm just not comfortable with it.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's not the mile an hour; it's the sustained mile an hour that kind of kills them. Yeah.
Well, that is faster. I mean, like for a 275 Pro, if that's what they had on the car, that's faster than the 275 Pro's been in the quarter too.
True. Yeah.
So that is some of the highest speeds that tire's ever been ran.
It's more of the sidewall. The sidewall temperature is being wrinkled for that long period of time, like 20 seconds of acceleration, and a lot of the guys overheat the sidewall and blow the sidewall out for extended force on the sidewall for 20 seconds straight.
Yep.
A few weeks ago, I met Jason White. He has Rec Mech Motorsports. He's been 258 with a C6, and he runs the Hoosier R7s also.
Yep, and I believe Joe Timney built that car.
Maybe so. Okay.
Yep. Delaware Chassis Works. Woo! Shout out.
Yep.
That's where the nose on our car came from. He fabricated it. So Bob, who actually built the A2 wind tunnel, and he's retired now. He doesn't work there. He just does projects for me on the side, apparently. He only lives a mile away from that wind tunnel, so you can just call him up. He'll drive on over. But he designed the nose, and then we designed it in his carport in front of his house. One February, and then Joe actually fabricated it in the shop out of steel. So it's all steel. It's not glass.
Nice.
Very
cool.
That's some complicated curvature to be doing in steel.
Yeah, and there's hardly any Bondo on that either. It's all actually welded to the original nose on the car, and then just the transition areas right there between the headlights and where the normal grill would curve forward to the point. There's just a little bit of Bondo work in there, and then everything else is just all Joe. He actually wanted to make it a lot better, but at the time when he had a torn bicep, that all together and was trying to hammer on it with a torn bicep. Was pretty brutal. He's a great dude.
So I don't take up too much time, but briefly, what does that nose look like?
Oh, it's the ugliest thing you've ever seen, dude. Oh my God.
Well, like my prom date in high school.
She's a snowplow.
Dan, were you able to see the front end of Kevin Mullins' SN95 before your accident?
Not that I remember.
Okay. That's the only reference. That's the only reference that I have.
Front of a train.
Yeah, it's even worse than a cow catcher on the front of a train. It looks like one of the big dual directional snow plows that go on the front of a train.
What was that? Yeah,
because it's concave and the bottom lip it's rounded out and it's to the point in the middle to follow to follow the line of the nose. So it's concave, so it's round. It's kind of rounded. It's not straight. And then the headlights look like they've been extended and rounded over. And looks like a convex cone, a round convex cone over the headlights almost.
Wow.
If you've
Turbo
ever
had
seen a
read
girl
my
who looks
mind.
like she was hit in the face by a shovel, she's beautiful compared to this car.
Y'all gotta run them guys off.
Yeah, the headlight deal is kind of interesting, right? So Bob's like, you need to build these, round things to go over the headlights and kind of deflect some air. But as far as making them, per the rules, the lights got to shine through them for street class. So you can't cover the headlights and not have light shine because then you don't have headlights, basically. So watch a couple good YouTube videos on vacuum forming. Dave and I literally built a vacuum form out of some pegboard and plywood and heated sheets of plastic over a camp stove and vacuum formed our own headlight covers to the factory bezel.
The front end damn near looks like a Studebaker.
That's what.
That's true.
Does it sort of like the old Witch Doctor Nova Pro Mod, where it had the old beak out the front? The old Pro Mods earlier days, you have the extended stuff out there in the front a little bit. The chin
like Google the Witch Doctor.
The front end, the top edge of the nose cone has got the stock profile to it. And then from there, it drops away and goes kind of forward. So there's a body line.
Yes, it looks exactly like the Witch Doctor. All right, Google that. Look at the images of that. It looks exactly like that front end, only not as fancy paint job. But that's totally it.
That's one of my all-time favorite Pro Mods. Is that Nova? I love that car. That's how Pro Mod should be.
That's
today.
a bitchin' car, man.
Man, I love that.
That's had a bunch of different paint jobs
so
on
in
it
the
too.
wind tunnel, So in the wind tunnel, a stock 1971 Camaro nose at 200 miles an hour has over 1,000 pounds of lift on it. And then the nose that's on the car right now, when we originally built it, we didn't have a lot of bracing on the front, and it actually drove the point at the leading edge down on the ground and took like over an inch of plastic off in one pass. Wow. So we had to go back and brace it. I had to put a turnbuckle between the front of the nose and the radiator support to keep the whole thing from just pushing down to the ground. So it definitely helps with the stability. I mean, you saw the video, even in the crosswind, you can see the steering wheel turn to the right, but I got one hand on the wheel at
which was nuts.
220 miles an hour, and it's just cruising.
Hell yeah.
It definitely becomes a problem on some of the land speed cars. Scott, I'm sure you could chime in on this, but you get above 200 mile an hour, and the suspension's just bottomed out, virtually. So you have to correct for that and be ready, willing, and able to make changes to keep the car off the ground. They will literally glue themselves into the ground.
Yeah, that's our guy Brent Malone, by the way. We'll talk about Brent here in a little while. He's starting his new business. So, but anyway, no, you're right. So yaw stability goes to crap on those cars at speed. And I don't want to give away too many secrets, but I mean, I'll tell you right now that the secrets to all these people are asking me about the tuning secrets behind Dave and Mike's car. And I'm just like, yeah, well, it's just our thing or whatever. Come to the class, blah, blah, blah. Truth be told, it's the Aero on that car that makes it jam like it does.
That's what I'm trying to do so much.
If I had Clark's motor in my car, it would run like 275 miles an hour.
Bingo.
Hey, we can make you that kind of horsepower.
Yeah, on my budget.
That's not. I don't know about on your budget.
You got credit.
Yeah.
You get a credit card. You're good.
Hey, one thing I am proud of is that everything on that car is paid for in cash. I don't have one.
Amen.
I have not paid one dime of interest for anything on that car except for when I was in college in 2001 when I bought it, and I had to get a high interest loan to actually buy the car, and it was my daily driver.
Do you know what interest is? Interest is the price you pay for being poor. Don't even sweat it.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Duly noted.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's good stuff right there.
That thing is slick. I love the wing off the back of it. The sail panels,
dude,
and stuff
lots and lots of tech in the wing, John. So they were on the phone. They were calling Bob for the wind tunnel guru. And I'm just, my observation, I could hear him talking on the phone, and I'm like, holy shit, there's a lot going on with that wing. Because they were talking about they had tested it at different angles. They were deciding what angle to run based on the conditions we had. And if I believe right, you had it in a high drag config to keep the car pointed straight. Am I right?
Yeah, it's got a fair amount.
Where it was set at, It was fairly neutral, so it was plus like 150-ish pounds of downforce, and then there's another 100 that we could go. We would have had to take it apart and readjust its mounting location to be able to get it up higher. So we, that's as high as we could get it without having to take every single one of the turnbuckles off of it.
How high are your spill plates on the sides of the wing?
The sill plates don't go up above the deck of the wing too far.
Nope.
They go back a fair amount, and they're down. The body line on the side of the car, right, Dan?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, the bottom of the sill plate is like even with the body line on the car, and it looks like it's 16 to 18 inches long. And the bottom edge of the wing is like dead flat, and the top edge, it's probably got, in the pictures, it looks like it's probably a 12 to 15 degree up angle. And the sill plate gets wider as it comes away from the car. Okay. So the sill plate is narrowest at the attachment point of the body, and then it gets wider as it comes back.
Cool.
And all of that is for is stability and nothing else. So
right. Well, the sill plate's the sill plate's not vertical, Dan. It's actually like angled the same as the body of the car.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it blends in really nice.
Yeah, it just kind of follows the body line, and then it actually comes. It also angles back out. So if you look at it from behind, it doesn't continue at the same angle as the quarter panels narrow towards the back of the car. It actually pushes back out, and the extra kind of sail off the back of the trailing edge of the flat part of the trailing edge of the flat part of the spoiler is where you get all the stability from. All the drag reduction comes from the top surface of the spoiler.
Right. Yeah, there's no wicker bill on it.
Yeah.
No. The wicker bill is on it. It's flipped upside down because it kited the parachute.
Ooh.
And I didn't want that in my life.
Yeah, that's not good.
Right, for sure.
I didn't need the downforce because it hooks up top.
Right. I was just sitting here scrolling through the pictures that were linked up on Scott's on Scott's Facebook page, and
how smooth was the Arkansas surface as far as bumping? Is it pretty smooth? Or because I was talking to Jason White today, he was saying that Loring.
It's like driving down a set of railroad tracks, but not on the track, on the ties themselves.
Yeah. Wow.
No, it's not. It's just rough in one spot.
Nowhere near as bad as Maxton.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, Maxton, Ohio, and Blytheville all have bumps right before the finish line. All of them. Yeah. Now Maxton had 10,000 bumps, so you were kind of in it the whole time to drive it. If you watch the video, you can actually see where I hit this. There's like a concrete section that actually is sunk, so it's just like hitting a wall, and literally concrete shrapnel shot.
Look at the video close,
the
right in the last couple seconds before he lets off the throttle. You literally see something blow up from the floor. It's concrete dust coming through the shifter boot.
Wow. Oh, I thought it was
gnarly.
I thought it was an air to water inside of there.
No, it was a hard hit too. I mean, my gut hurt after that one for a couple of hours. I actually sent Steve Stripp, the guy that runs the ECTA now, I sent him a message like, hey man, I broke a travel limiter. Rick Lind, who has the other car that I'm sure Scott will talk about today, he broke a shock mount and cut a tire down on that bump.
Damn,
so
that's dangerous.
I asked him to go back out there and check it out, and is there a better lane we can run in, something to try to alleviate that, because I don't want to play that game anymore.
Yeah.
But
yeah, for sure. We broke fifth gear there, hitting a bump. About second into fifth gear, spiked the tire about 300 RPM when we hit it, and once it planted back down, it just sheared fifth gear off like it was nothing.
Oh shit! Did you? I didn't look at the data on that, Mike or Dave. I don't know if you guys looked and see what kind of wheel speed you picked up when you went a little bit of airborne there, but I'm sure it's in there.
234. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, 234.
Yeah, there was actually a really big spike in fuel consumption and duty cycle kind of freaked everything out.
Interesting. When it loaded back up. Yeah. That's whatever, man. It is what it is. To me, it was one of those. We really didn't change the tune from the class. Only thing we played with was the boost level, and I played around with the idle because we didn't have a chance to run it in 40-degree weather at the class on C16. So we were dicking around with that, trying to make it run nice in the cold. It was half decent. I just ended up turning the idle up so it would get some heat in it too, because it was so freaking cold that I'm like, man, I don't want these guys leaving with just no heat at all in the motor, and you could sit there and stage and run it for like 60 seconds or a minute and a half. But so we set the idle at like 1800 RPM and it warmed up. It ended up being just right, dude, just at the end of that poll. I liked the numbers. The inlet air temps, 170 Fahrenheit. That's a little bit hot for a day that's that cold starting off. That's going to...
Well, that thing needs a water pump on the intercooler.
Yeah, dude, it's an Igloo ice chest.
I know,
dude.
I just scrolled through the pictures and kudos for the redneck Igloo ice cooler intercooler tank. But
I know what you need to put on the back deck lid. Balling on a budget.
Yeah, right.
A budget, no budget.
Well, so normally
we need a water pump. We need a water pump. So we need more water pump because there's a pretty good water pump on there. We need to move more water faster.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but that little Rule 2000 you got is not a water pump. That's a bilge pump for a boat.
With anything cooling, more flow is always better. It's the surface of the water that does all the cooling. So the more surface area you can create by causing more water to flow, the better it's going to cool.
Yeah, we need to get you
normally do is pre-cool that intercooler. Mm-hmm. And that helps a whole lot. And we did not do that because we were just sitting there waiting for so long.
Nope. The humidity was high and it was cold and we were real close to the dew point. I was like, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see 38 degrees down here because that's enough that's going to do the dew point thing. You don't ever want to
break dew point with the motor.
Yeah. Yeah. It just makes it suck water.
So, fill up I've seen entire gallon size cans of
and dude, it was big front going through humid because of the whole damn country had up north. They had a bunch of snow, a bunch of blizzards. Down south they had tornadoes and everything else. It was a giant high pressure to low pressure system, and actually it was crappy low pressure. It's not like the poor naturally aspirated guys were just like, pack it up, go home, this weather sucks. But
you get your airflow below the dew point and it starts slowing down.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, so it ended up really cool.
It was the worst race I've ever been to and also the best one.
Right? So it
was like a horrible race that had a really good outcome.
It was like flying airplanes. It was hours and hours of pure boredom punctuated by a few seconds of sheer terror. That was absolutely how that weekend could be described. But dude, I'll tell you what, I lost my voice shouting so hard in the car. Yeah. So it was.
You can hear me screaming at the end of the video.
Yeah, you were screaming, man hugs, that kind of weird stuff going on. But
cool.
Yeah, you kind of creeped me out a little bit there. Dude.
Sorry, man. Sorry. It's okay. It's good. I'm proud of you guys. I'm happy. You get a little man hug.
He said that's legal in Iowa.
Yeah. Well, come on. Shit. Here we go. It's not like I was grabbing parts or anything. Anyway, congrats to the Matajasic brothers.
Like the mile races, and one of them is, like I was telling you the other day, Scott, is the car leaves and you lose line of sight with it, so you don't know what's happened with the car. That's it. Just is uncanny to me. Coming from drag racing experiences, you get to see the car, you know where it's at, you see it turn off, you feel safe and cozy.
It goes off on the horizon, and you're like, well, I wonder how they did. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. So anyway, Rye's telling me we're already 45 minutes in and we haven't even transitioned to the other guests tonight. So Matajasic brothers, you guys rule. Feel free to stick around, man. If you want to, we have a little hangout after this is over, but you can stay on the line, just mute yourself or whatever. But congrats, you guys kick ass. Check out the video. Check out Time Bomb Land Speed Racing on Facebook. Check out my page. We put up, actually, if you go to the RealTuners YouTube, my latest upload on the video is a badass telemetry overlay. It's pretty cool. I'm going to put together something better with some pictures that TJ and the guys took at the class where we tuned this thing, because I thought it was pretty special. Some other classes out there, you get to tune like a Hyundai that somebody put a standalone on or something. That's bullshit. I mean, we actually tuned race car, and it was low buck, and everybody put their heads to it, and we all agreed as a group how to send that thing home. I mean, I seriously, at the end of the day, I was like, well, here's probably what I do, but what do y'all think? You know, I mean, and everybody took turns. Probably 10 different people had their hands on the laptop tuning that thing, making passes. Same thing with Curtis Forsberg's car. I didn't even touch the Holly on it. But anyway, it was neat to see. Thank you guys for bringing us along. That was cool. Good job on the win. That's one of those things I'm never going to forget. There's probably 8 or 10 other cool events like that in my life, but that added to it. So thank you.
Cool. Well,
Appreciate it.
thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on, and we'll be in touch soon about.
Yep. Oh, we certainly
knocking it up a
will.
little faster.
See, we got 235 to hit next. I mean, dude, just get rid of that wind and we got it. But anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that in advanced class, traction control. Take care. So
See you guys.
yeah. Real quick, I should get in. I just want to get a little shout out to some guys I got to hang with. So that was the Matajasic brothers, and that was the first 4 days of my trip. I left on Thursday, right the next morning after the last week's podcast. Right, flew to St. Louis, tuned on Joey Tarpeo's car for a couple hours. Shout out to Joey, guy in St. Louis that had a Holly on a small block Ford that had some issues with, and we got 99% of it sorted out. Then met up with Dave. And then we drove the 3.5 hours to the event, did what we just talked about for the 3 days. Immediately after this event was over, had to take pictures with Hot Rod Magazine. Wes Allison, the best photographer, one of the best photographers in automotive journalism, took everybody's pictures. Then we had to hop in the car literally with minutes to spare. We got to the gate 45 minutes in Memphis, Tennessee. We drove an hour and a half to Memphis. Had 45 minutes before the flight departed, and they allow you 40 minutes at the gate. So we had 5 minutes to chill and spare. Hauled ass to the airport, got on the plane. He flew to Vegas for a couple of days, work trip. I flew Dallas Fort Worth, then to Lubbock, Texas, right? I don't know if you guys know what's in Lubbock.
Yeah.
Come on, LS guys. Hey, Brent knows, right? What's in Lubbock?
Skog-and-Dickey.
Hell yeah. So anyway, that's where all of our parts come from. So anyway, I went to Skog-and-Dickey, the actual, the performance guys. There's, it's a lot of the old guys from Sunset Engine Builders. Real talented guys. So you got Stuart Sheffy, Daryl Burgoon, Aaron Schoaf, all the guys out there. Super cool guys. So they had a customer, Ron Sutton, who I've worked with for a little over a year now. He's developing I'm not going to call them crate motors, but race engine packages for the Optima Streetcar crowd, autocross crowd. This one was one of his autocross warriors, he calls them. But really, really cool combo. And it was it ended up making what was a naturally aspirated deal, 416-inch LS, and it makes, the goal was 650 horsepower at the flywheel on Skog-and-Dickey's dyno. We were at like 670, 672 or something like that. But did we do a 73 or 75? I don't know. Somewhere in there. And we were above the goal, and everybody, of course, is telling us how we're doing it wrong because I'm making posts on Facebook. But, dude, so the short runners on the fast LSX intake picked up everything from yesterday to today, Bewley. It still fell over quicker than cam guys like to see above 7,200 RPM. But that thing made some stink, and it was funny because none of us expected it to do that much better. And that's just an example of, you can't say, the changing runners don't help nothing, blah, blah, blah. Because we were saying that ourselves, but for the right application, it's an example of something that did really well. Picked up the top end power without killing the bottom end.
It raised the whole curve up and it did it good, but I still don't think there's still no solution to why it's tanking 10% and 600 RPM
yes,
per peak.
Correct. We know that. It's still above target, so he didn't care. I mean, it wasn't perfect. I bet you he's going to work that out too. You watch.
I still think that this is a good example of why people should learn how to build an engine NA before they put turbos on and just patch everything.
Boom. Yeah. Of course, Mark's in the minority because everybody else here just slapped turbos and everything and went fast. But
yeah, hey, I resemble that remark.
No. Malone's here. He'll back us up a little bit. He spent a lot of time on the dyno. But anyway.
You're not alone, Mark. I'm with you.
Well, see, the thing about it is you don't build turbo engines to make horsepower. You build turbo engines. You build turbo engines. No. You build turbo engines to make for maximum efficiency out of the turbocharger.
Sure.
So you don't build them to make horsepower. You build them to make a target horsepower, not the most they can absolutely make. It's completely different than making naturally aspirated horsepower.
Yep, you build it to
Completely
support
different.
whatever airflow that turbine is going to work on and what it needs to spin the turbine and the compressor.
What the compressor wants.
Yeah.
I'm still gonna say that intake and cylinder head design have an effect on how it makes horsepower.
Oh, it
yes,
does.
they do, and
Definitely.
it makes a big design because you don't have to worry about the cylinder head putting air in the cylinder. You know, it's like I've preached this a dozen times over. The last thing you worry about in a turbo motor when it comes to cylinder heads is the thing moving air, because you're going to move the air regardless, and you want
just make it more dense. Yep.
The job, the list, the list of things that the cylinder head's job changes completely for a turbo engine. Like, for a naturally aspirated motor, the number one thing, get air in the cylinder. Turbo engine, that doesn't even make the top 5.
So anyway,
the number one thing for a turbo motor is keep the head gasket in place.
I'm looking for my grinds my gears.
Absolutely right.
Thing.
Meanwhile, Dave and I just want to put nitrous on everything.
I know, right? So let's transition to those. Anyway, huge shout out to the guys at Scoggin-Dickey. They asked us to do a class there. Actually, they're like more interested in James doing his HP Tuners version of the class there now. But I mean, they got Copo cars there ready to rock. They got all kinds of cool stuff. They build big ass pro-charged 2,400 horsepower blow through carb deals, EFI, whatever you want. So check out Scoggin-Dickey. SDPC, those guys are pretty talented engine builders, real talented engine builders there. And whether your thing is bracket racing or going fast, I'm kidding. They got some fast bracket racers.
So let's have some fun. What's the role of the cylinder head on a nitrous motor?
Get the exhaust out of the cylinder.
Stop detonation.
Yeah.
No, let Dave answer that, Mr. Vasser.
Swallow a bunch of juice.
What's that?
I said, what his question is the job of the cylinder head in a nitrous application.
That's air in, air out.
Boom. Yep. Get it in and out as efficiently as possible.
Well, it's also got to complete the combustion process efficiently. The nitrous stuff is real susceptible to knock. So,
yeah.
As the charge motion comes in, it's a whole lot more hectic than a naturally aspirated engine. Once the light off happens, so
yep,
expelling exhaust I think is probably more key than intake. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Oh, I agree 110% because you've got assistance getting it in with the kit, and you don't have any assistance getting it out. So the exhaust port on a nitrous engine is way more important than the intake port, in my opinion. And then with the additional with
20 degrees of split is not uncommon with a big nitrous kit.
Oh yeah. And, then one step down from that is holding the gasket in place because your cylinder pressures are obviously elevated above what the thing's doing naturally aspirated. So exhaust port, hold the head gasket, have a good chamber so it doesn't knock itself to death. And
well, so let's move on. Scott's got some topic, or I'm sorry, Scott. Dave's got some topics. Dave from Nitrous Outlet. He's got some topics he wants to talk about. First off, your bottle exchange program. What is the update or what's going on there? Or maybe Rye's got better questions, but I actually want to hear about that.
The bottle exchange program is, here a while back, we've been doing that program since 2009. And I think we've actually talked about it on your show before.
We did.
Yeah. And so a while back, there was a thing floating around about the bottle exchange program. And I did this video. Some people seen. I was a little hot-headed. And
awesome.
You're fired
anyways,
up on that one.
right. So in that program, we had said that for the next 2 months, which is basically running until the end of this month, for every bottle exchange we did, we were going to do $10 towards the Blake Fund. And for people that aren't familiar with who Blake is the reason for the bottle exchange program. Back in 2009, he had a bottle blow up and almost ended his life. Spent 2 months in the ER fighting, and ever since, and he's never really recovered from it. And got tons of health complications that came with it. And his latest complication is just, financially. You take a guy that's a working man and remove his ability to work, things get rough.
Yeah.
I know, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we decided we were going to try to raise some money just to get him wheelchair accessible vehicle, so he's not bound at the house all the time. Let him get out and about and have a life. And so we're looking for like a minivan or something like that where he can because he still got his right leg. He just lost his left leg. So he still got his pedal leg. His God knows he still wants to get in a race car. So,
All right, good stuff.
Exactly. So our goal is to raise enough money just to get him a vehicle that can have the wheelchair accessible stuff. So we said we were going to donate $10, for every bottle trade in. We ended up raising. Whenever I looked 2 days ago, it was like almost $1,000 a bottle trade in program, and then we raised. Whenever I looked today, it was a little over $3,000 on the GoFundMe page. So, and then of course we're doing our grand opening hot rod show. It'll be our 3rd annual hot rod show, and we're about to do that in June 16th, and we have some things going on there to help raise the rest of the money to get them this vehicle. So for the rest of this month, if we can get people to take advantage of that bottle trading program and trade these bottles in, it actually has a good cause behind it.
So how do they find out? Where do they go to send a bottle? And if they have a bottle that's sitting in their garage that's questionable, or even in their car that's questionable, how do they get in touch and get that thing to you?
So they can go to our website, and there's automatically a pop-up that comes in, and they can go in and fill out the we'll call it a questionnaire. And what happens is that submits so that we can issue a RMA number, and that way you'll write that on the box, so when the bottles get there, we know who it belongs to. Or they can call one of our techs, and our techs will fill out the information and issue the number. So what we're doing is, so like a 10-pound bottle that costs $230 with our 508,000 ID valve, we give $100 credit for the bottle that's getting traded in, and then on a 15-pound bottle we charge $290. We give $100 credit towards the bottle that's getting traded. So it's a great way for somebody to take a bottle that's abused, out of shape, and trade it in and not lose all their money towards it, and plus not let it circulate.
So
to where it was.
Aside from like the obvious physical signs, like guys at the track, you see it all the time, taking a torch to their bottle, who's been dropped, kicked around, or whatever over the years. How do you read the stampings to know if your bottle's out of date?
So on the crown of the bottle up at the top, there's some stampings, and the date stamp is in that crown. And so an aluminum bottle is certified it's good. The certification is good for 5 years after it's originally stamped from the manufacturer, and a carbon fiber bottle is good for 3 years. Now, when that time is up, it doesn't mean the bottle's trash. It just means that you need to go get it tested to make sure it's still safe. And you can get them tested for about $25, like at any fire extinguisher company that recharges fire extinguishers. Some of the welding supplies companies. I have a paintball shop down actually 3 blocks from me that does them for $25.
How do they inspect them, if you don't mind?
So they put them in this pressure tank. It's like a water tank, and it sits in this tank. And this tank has a bunch of sensors. So what they do is they take and push water into the bottle, and what they're looking for is sidewall flex. And if it flexes any at all, it fails. And so that's actually how they test it. And so after they test it and it passes, they just restamp it, and it's good for another 5 years.
At what pressure do they inject the water into it?
I can't remember. We actually have an article. We have a Nitrous Tech page, and we actually have an article that covers that, how the pressure testing is done. And it's been so long since we wrote it up, I don't remember.
Okay.
Right.
But we also have one on the crown markings and how to look at the year of your bottle.
If I remember right, it's a really stupid high pressure, like 2,500, 3,000 PSI. Like it's a really, really, really high number.
That's good information.
I can't remember. I'm thinking it isn't that much pressure, to be honest with you.
It's their service pressure. So a nitrous bottle service pressure is 1,800 PSI on all the standard nitrous bottles. So if a nitrous bottle is being tested, then the service pressure is 1,800, and that's what it's hydrostatically tested at. So that's what they get.
Maybe I'm thinking some of the other stuff like CO2
for argons.
So like our nano bottles being 3,000 psi or 4,500, then that's what they get hydrostatically tested at. So,
gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Wicked.
Thanks, Bo. I couldn't remember.
200 pounds is still pretty stupid high.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the carbon fiber bottles, depending on which one it is, they have a total lifespan of 15 years. So even after you get them recertified every 3 years, some of those bottles only have a total lifespan of 15 years. So after 15 years, they are done. And then you got to take them out.
The aluminum bottles are the same way.
Yeah, I believe so on those as well, that they can no longer be used.
Huh.
And that's their lifespan. So even after being recertified on those every 5 years, their lifespan is 15. So
that's
where do those perspective?
I wonder how dramatically
the
that
bottle
drops with the heat cycles that you put in the aluminum. For example, that many heat cycles with the guys running warmers and blankets, or let's hope not the torch really would, I assume, dramatically shorten up the lifespan.
well, that's why it's important
the torch is the
to check
killer.
these date codes, and then when they get hydrostatically tested, they get re-stamped that they've been tested, and again, then they need to be retested every 3 years and 5 years. So
hey, let's back up 1 second. Mr. Vasser, is there just a regular GoFundMe I can post a link to for this guy if people just want to make a donation?
Yeah.
I mean, I have no problem asking for donations.
No.
Yeah, it's actually on my wall. I don't know what the link is. Hey, thank y'all.
Is it on Dave Vasser or?
Thank you. Yeah, it's on the David Vasser. So there's a Dave Vasser and there's a David Vasser. It's on the David Vasser page.
Got it. I'm finding the link. I'm digging it up. You guys keep talking. I'll find it.
Hey, to go back to the weakening the sidewalls, the heater really doesn't do that to the bottle, but the torch tip will. And these guys that are keeping it in the back of a hatch car, and the sun is like just beaming down through the back window. That's terrible for these bottles.
That's a nightmare.
yeah, you guys should, if you've seen some of the videos that David's got of his bottle trade-in program where he shows all the different bottles that have come in, you should see some of the hot spots on the bottles that he's got.
I got a local pro mod racer. He's got this tall, skinny bottles from the 90s, and they got white spots in them where they've overheated it so bad with torches that the blue has turned to white. And you can't tell these people that they got a bomb sitting beside them. And, but they just don't understand.
I didn't realize how
I won't even tune on those cars.
I didn't even realize how old my bottle was until I saw your video, David. I have a 15-pound bottle from 10,000 RPM nitrous injectors.
Nice. I got a couple of those in the trade-in. I kept them.
Yeah. That's one. I'm not going to use it again. I'm just going to put that on the shelf. Yeah.
I have a blue
NO bottle for public awareness, and David, I think everybody at the end of the day will appreciate you with this program because people don't know, they get a bottle out of their uncle's old, Chevelle that's been in the garage for 10, 20 years. And, the public doesn't know that these things are disposable basically. So they're going to run them and they're going to get hurt, unfortunately. So kudos off to you, Dave, for setting up that program.
Yeah, sure. I thought that was badass. I can't believe I heard some jackass dogging you, trying to dog you about that. God.
Sometimes it's just the bulldog protecting his backyard.
I guess so, man. Whatever.
Oh, we all know who that is.
Yeah. I doubt he'd come on. I'd welcome him on here, but he wouldn't come on.
Deanna Malone pasted.
I told him to call me.
You did? Like, legitimately great. We're all going to hell.
Deanna Malone posted a link to the post where the link to the GoFundMe is.
I also just shared one. Yep.
Awesome.
So I just posted in the comments on Facebook.
She's on it.
Yep.
She's on it.
Dina's on it.
She's got you back.
Dude, you'd be screwed without her. I'm just going to throw this out there. Mama
believe
Bear's got it under control in the Malone household. You guys know her at all?
We know who wears the pants in this family.
Oh, yeah. No, I got a good Dina story. So, their dog ran off one time. The family dog took off when they were living up in Decatur. And I grew up 10 minutes away from where they lived for a long time. And I'm like, man, let's help her find this dog. So I helped her make some flyers. I was home for the day. I was sick or something. I don't know what was going on. I was home from work. Wasn't a busy day. We helped her make flyers. And then I joined every municipal Facebook group for the city of Decatur, Indiana, to like post looking for this dog. And they found the dog. That was like 2 years ago. Now I still get the weirdest messages from like the Decatur VFW post, the Decatur like post office. It's just literally I must have like joined up like 100 different Decatur things to help him find that dog. But it was pretty hilarious. Mama Bear found the dog. It's all good.
Yeah, they definitely did come back after a while. So I appreciate that, Scott. I know Dina does too. I'm sure she's listening in. So
no problem. It was fun.
My wife, that's for sure.
Yeah,
it takes a team, that's for sure. I'm glad I got a good one.
No, and you got 2 little kids. They're cool. That was funny. It was cool to see the dogs come back home. But anyway, woof, there they are.
Yeah, buddy.
So anyway, let's see. Well, I don't want to interrupt. Carry on. We just put the link up there. That's go check that out to help. What is it? Support Helping Blake, organized by David Vasser. Check out the link on the Facebook comments.
I'll share it on my pages too.
Yep. Well, we're going to share yours here towards the end, Dan. So cool.
And can I ask a question about Blake?
Yes.
Did he lose his full leg or just partial, above the knee, below the knee? Or?
He lost it right at the kneecap. So what happened was is whenever the bottle exploded. So the deal with this bottle was he bought this car, right? And it had this nitrous system already in it. And he had taken the bottle out of the car and put it in the shop. And then at a later date, he was building a transmission, and he reached down to grab that bottle and move it, and it exploded.
Wow.
And so that it turns out that bottle was 15 years out of date.
Yeah.
But it still looked like brand new. He didn't torch it. It was in the back of a Camaro. So that's why I preach about this back glass. That could have been the issue. I don't know. So either which way, it had a weak sidewall, and that bottle went through his body like shrapnel. And as a result, he had a bunch of blood transfusions. Well, he ended up picking up a blood disease they say is inheritable, but it's not in his family. But they can't answer if it could have came from the blood transfusions or not. So because of the blood disease, his body gets these big sores on him, and he can't wear prosthetics.
Okay.
Man, that's horrible.
Because I'm friends with Ken Johnson that used to work for Star Racing. He's got one leg. He's above the knee, and he drives a semi with one leg.
Yeah.
And he's unreal, And I know I'm totally blind, and so I know it's like going. I went blind 6 years ago from a pro modified wreck. So I know what it's like to lose everything and risk losing your house, your way to make a living. So I can definitely, relate to them, and I hope everybody pitches in and donates, because man, there's nothing worse than sitting around the house worrying how you're going to keep the lights on. So my heart goes for them, man. I watched your video, and I'm glad you helped them.
I appreciate that.
Awesome. Yeah, for sure. We all could use a little bit of help every once in a while, and being around a good community helps out a lot. So
yeah,
there are a
no
lot
doubt.
of good people out there.
Yeah,
no doubt.
Sure.
Racers are good folks.
Yeah. Yep.
So, right on. Well, hopefully we can kick down to see if we can make that thing grow a little bit, man. We should be able to raise $1,000 or $2. Yeah. Come on, you guys. If you guys are listening, check that out. I'm going to hit him up for
no doubt.
a lot of money.
That'll make a huge difference. Our goal is to put him in something by our open house, which is June 16th. So if we could make that happen there at the show, he'll be there. That'd be huge.
Hell yeah.
All over it. We'll bring it up next week too. Very cool.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
So what other stuff is going on in the world of Nitrous Outlet? What other thrilling videos do we look forward to?
I've got a Nitrous question, if I could ask.
Go ahead, Dahlquist.
All right. Let me hear it.
Okay, so if you have a screw blower, or say like a Whipple, or say even a
centrifugal.
No, I'm thinking more along the lines of like the intake manifold style.
The high helix roots type.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Positive displacement style, PDS.
Eaton, like an Eaton blower.
Eaton style. Yeah.
Eaton.
How well does nitrous work as an intercooler, and is it better to put the nitrous in the port after the blower, or put it in the port before the blower?
Nitrous is just like meth. So if you can pull it further back into the intake tract, it does a better job of cooling it. So you're gonna if your main focus is to knock down IATs, the goal is to bring it further back. so that it'll saturate the air intake charge. If you're blowing it down the port, you're going to have less IAT correct. It will, as the valve closes, you will get reversion back up in the intake. So it will do, it will knock the IATs down, but it's not going to be as effective at knocking the IATs down if you were to have a plate or a single nozzle in the air tube or something like that versus a direct port. A lot of the root style blowers, like your LSAs, LS9, LT4s, even your Hemi Hellcat Charger, we're putting spray bars inside those intake manifolds, or we have plates that have spray bars that blow it down the port. And a lot of these cars are just getting so limited for space that we have to get creative on where we're putting stuff.
True.
So
now, how much of a reduction?
Not to mention people who just want to hide it because that's the way you win races.
Well, how much of a reduction in IAT do you see? Have you ever measured that?
I'm so forgetful, and we have data like that at the shop, but for some reason it goes like in one ear and out the other for me.
Well, you never remember hard numbers and data because you're probably going to be wrong. I learned that a long time ago, so it's best to go back to the notes. For sure.
Right.
We sprayed a lot of nitrous through a TBS 2300 in a pretty heavy car, and went through the paces of spraying fuel with nitrous, all through those criteria. And like you said, the best thing to do is just flow the gas through the rotor. I know there's some potential issues with fuel going through the rotor. It's limited for space, so you're going to squash down the fuel, and it's going to sling it everywhere. There's some issues with the coating as well. Washing off and things like that. I'm sure you guys have read online. I don't know all those factors that cause that or make that happen, but I do know one thing: you try to spray fuel through the rotor, it's pretty much a lost cause. You're not going to get the fueling that you want spraying through the rotor. But as a gaseous compound, the nitrous oxide works very well through the rotor.
I can tell you from personal
experience. How well does it work as a dry kit?
I'm sorry.
If you use it as a dry kit, does it work better?
Yeah, that's how we used it as a dry kit. We sprayed, I think it was a 24 and a 76 jet in 2 stages dry, and then corrected it with the fuel injector through a custom operating system from EFI Live. So it worked really well in that situation. Made a lot of laps with the car. No issues.
I can tell you from personal experience, lots of tuning on them. The dry kits with forced induction work amazing. Doesn't matter if it's a blower or a turbo, a dry kit will respond way better on those things. You'll get the benefits of the cooling, plus you'll see like a 25 shot will act more like 35 or 40. It won't act like a 25. It'll act like more than a 25. So you put in a little and you get a little extra back when you do it with forced induction, especially if you do it before to cool down the air.
Yeah, the latent heat of vaporization, aids in that. So the cooler, denser intake charge, it helps you get that. So, when they say, there's a 50 horsepower pill and it only picks up 30 on the wheel dyno, you're actually going to pick up 50, on that shot or prescribed shot. So we definitely seen great gains through dry shot in the blowers. But nitrous is a fickle thing. People like to just turn it on, on the fly, and you have to be really prepared to spray nitrous. That's what I try to teach. It's just not that thing in the back of your truck. You just go slap on, turn on the valve, and hit the button. And you got to be prepared. Bottle pressure has to be normalized. You got to run your tune-up the same every time. You can't go down there with 300 pounds of pressure, and then the next time 1,100 pounds of pressure.
Yeah.
You're just asking for problems.
Battery volts, fuel pump pressure, everything has to be, the same and always maintenance.
There's some great securities in that. With the technology we got now, there's safeties for AFR and fuel pressure and all those types of things. But you guys know as well as I do, you get a race car on the racetrack and it's shaking the tires and banging the gears. A lot of those things move around a whole lot and end up being a hindrance, and we start taking them away. And just the thing by the way we know, reading the plug and things like that. So a lot of safety features out there that are available. A lot of them aren't up to par with the abuse that we put these cars through.
So here's a question. I was reading through the questions, and Chris on the Mixler chat had a good one, because I've wondered this personally as well. Is there a chart somewhere or a formula to figure out what the equivalent of a certain single jet size is to 4 other jets. If he wants to basically go to what was he doing here? He's going from a single jet spray bar to a 4-jet bar. He's a motorcycle guy. What does a guy like that do? Is it strictly cross-sectional area, or what is there to it?
Yeah, area of the jet would be the place to start.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have that formula somewhere, but I don't have it in front of me.
Different.
Sorry, 2 people stepped all over each other. Pick one and talk.
There is a formula for that. I can't think of what it is off the top of my head, but it's a very raw formula, and there's a lot more component factors that come into play to whether or not it actually works. It can get you a ballpark. It's great for especially dry tuning if you don't have any flow data. It gets you in the ballpark of where you need to be to add the fuel pounds per hour.
Got it.
Yeah, I think that's a great answer, Dave. And to just shift gears, let's talk about the phase change. Of moving it through different orifices and bends and stuff like that. So, how dramatic is that?
It's pretty dramatic. I mean, if you even just think about it from an air conditioned standpoint of static air versus velocity, and think about ducking and what the air conditioning guys are trying to do to move airflow. Well, nitrous system's the same way. And I'm actually working on a technical article right now. I got sidetracked because we got so busy. But that last hoorah where I got a little upset on that Facebook video, I started showing some valve tech. And after I got done with that, I was like, you know what? Let's just take this to another step. I have every bottle valve in the manufacturer cut open off the mill, sitting in the R&D room right now. And we're back. We're actually about to do a technical video that explains about phase change and how pressure drop and phase change are related, and just the design of the system components and how those things work. And Mo actually sent me the second part of this technical stuff. Mo actually sent me a nano kit to do some tech with, and Kenny Lafferty's actually sending me a code box. Those are a lot of common questions, and none of these systems are a one-all fits all. You really got to know your needs and what you're doing, and it's a very common question. And I think Mo will agree that a lot of times people are quick to give their judgment, but they don't have any technical data in it, or it's just a specific application they tried something on that didn't work out, whether it was their doings or they're just familiar with one thing, so that's what they keep preaching.
Boom. Yep.
So we're trying to feed that data out there.
God.
Can you back up for a moment for those folks who slept through high school physics or didn't take the class in the first place and talk about what state change means, specifically in this nitrous context, and then why manipulating the location of let's say a dry nitrous shot, where that goes on the engine, and why that has the different effects? Because I think a lot of people are working off, well, you just stick it here, but we like to deal on a lot of the why, if you don't mind.
Right. Well, the phase change is actually going to come from the boiling point of the nitrous whenever it expands. So if you think about in a nitrous system, in a perfectly plumbed nitrous system, the transition is going to stay the same. So you're not going to have any restriction points or expansion ports. But then you get into a point where some of these systems, and that's the reason a lot of this stuff is so back and forth, because what works for one tune-up may be different on a different. Here's a prime example. We do a bunch of 125 jet stuff for limited 275. And I think anybody would agree that our customers have dominated limited 275 for a good 5 or 6 years now. DXP 235 and what is it, MX 235?
Yeah. Yep.
Those two classes, our plates were not allowed in until here recently. And so I had to submit a lot of flow data to John, and we talked about design and just what's going on so that it could get approved. So here's a prime example versus, so if you think about it, pressure, phase change, and pressure drop are all kind of related. So to give you an idea, MX 235, big block is restricted to a 76 thousandth orifice pill, and a big block is restricted to an 82 thousandth orifice pill, and a I can't remember what combo that is. It's restricted to a 92 thousandths orifice pill. What is that, 6.2 deck or something like that?
0.6.
Yeah. And so what we came to realize is, so like the 125 pill responds better at 900 psi. You have less pressure drop. It makes more power there than it does at 950. The 76 thousandths orifice pill flows better at 950. So the tune-ups we did at 900, we were able to make more pounds per hour on the 76 jet at a 950 psi. So sometimes playing with, everybody's got this idea where the pressure needs to be as well, and it's not always. All those, the tune-up and the amount of nitrous that you're putting through it and the flow path that's within the nitrous system will all dictate kind of what's the perfect tune-up for that car. And that's just, I always say that a flow bench is like a chassis dyno. It's just a tool. And then you kind of see what makes sense there, and then you go try it at the track and see how the car responds to it.
Nope, that makes sense. So ultimately, you tune it at the track for what you're going to use it for.
Correct. And what you see on the flow bench isn't always, the given answer. And everybody gets caught up in these numbers and these formulas, and sometimes we end up not even close to what that is.
Could you explain to everybody exactly how you flow a nitrous system? I'm assuming you're turning the nitrous on for a certain amount of time and measuring the nitrous used, but most people would like to understand exactly how you do that.
Correct. So, you could do it several ways. And the next video, I actually have a portable timer that I use. It's just a digiset on a board, on a carbon fiber board that we built in a nice inventory counting scale. And so what I'll do is, like, if I go to the track, it's really great on an EFI car, or if I'm just trying to see if the car's moving the nitrous it's supposed to, I'll use that at the track, and it's just a formula based off of time. And I generally, if most 8-mile cars, I'll flow it for 5 seconds. A lot of my tune-ups are based off 5 seconds. The flow bench at the shop has load cells and flow meters, and it has a Hawley system that Scott actually worked with, helped me get worked out. The system there is based off of 5 seconds. The fuel runs through a flow meter, and the nitrous is flowed off of a load cell.
It's pretty badass, actually. What they were doing, I'm like, what are you doing? Okay, cool. But anyway, that's neat. High tech.
So I saw a few of these, the video that you did at Duck's last race. Can you talk to us a little bit about this insane tower of power plate kit that you have?
So, how we were just talking about pressure drop and and phase change. Well, with these jet restricted classes, there becomes to a point where the racer program is trying to achieve everything they can out of a motor, and cam, heads, engine design, and then the rest is kind of left on my lap of how do I get more nitrous through here. We've gotten to the point where with the Stinger design, where it was flowing about as much nitrous as it was going to flow. And so we were trying to figure out, how do we improve that? And just working off your basic knowledge of your physics of flow, we realized, okay, well, we need to open up the volume channel to the discharge cone. And so what we did is we fed the Stinger down through the center of the carburetor or the throttle body. We just bore a 5/8 hole down through there, and there's a tower that we make on the lathe, and it's got O-rings that slide up through there. And we've actually moved the jet down into the bottom of the tower at the cone. And so what we've done by doing that and increasing the size of the solenoid is we've increased the volume that's compacting the jet. And as a result, we're just moving more nitrous. And because of the way the Stinger cone is designed, the quality of the nitrous is still great whenever it discharges from the cone. As a result, you see how these cars are running.
Clearly,
so you've moved
Absolutely right. Yep.
You've moved the state change further down into the system. In other words,
correct. And we've, like that system is expensive, and whenever you look at it, you think, God, why is it so like? we're charging $2,500 for a wet application, carbureted, and we're charging I think it's $1,900 for EFI. The amount of time that goes into that thing, because it's all hand done, and every component in there is so we make the jets. Well, we make the jets on the mill. I mean, on the lathe.
Wow.
And we've came to realize that the way that the jets are made, the taper from the countersink and the etchant countersink, and the distance area inside the jet dictates 15, 20 horsepower.
How many of these things did
flow.
you go through trying to figure this out? Like, do you have a bucket full of old jets laying around?
Yeah, we've been through a lot. And every time, and since there's not enough volume of this to justify CNCing it, so every time we make a tower of power, we may go through a handful of jets, because you can't, on a manual lay in a mill, reproducing those tolerances, and whenever it's that whenever these parts are that sensitive to the tolerances, it is so hard to do. And we're still learning stuff every time we do it. And we know the pounds per hour we can reach, and we just keep remaking parts until it reaches that pounds per hour. And that's the reason it's so expensive.
So
the amount of nitrous that we're wasting and stuff.
Looking at these things, like when you do one of these for somebody, and I know you've only done a few of them, at least when I saw this
We've
thing
done
produced.
right around 10 now.
Do they send in the whole intake and carburetor setup, because it plumbs it right through the middle of the carb, correct?
Correct. They'll send their carburetor or their throttle body.
Gotcha. Yeah, if you guys haven't seen this thing, it's badass. Search for Nitrous Outlet Tower of Power, and you can see the video in the staging lanes at Ducks Race of them inspecting this thing. It's pretty rad little setup.
I know years ago.
I was interested to see what John Sears was going to think whenever he had to check that thing in.
Right?
Yeah.
Years ago, I used to make some.
Well, kudos for you on the R&D side of it. A lot of people will put a lot of components together they can find anywhere and slap them together and call it a nitrous kit. But, down in the meat of it, the guys that are making the real power and want the real power, you got to put the R&D in it. You got to work on it constantly. If you stop working on it, the next guy's going to pass you.
That's right.
No, go ahead, Dan.
Yep.
You were saying something
R&D,
there.
where's that?
Got stepped on. Say, what were you going to say?
They were talking about the point of the state changes in the 90s. I used to make some spray bar kits for the Mustangs, and I would put a spray bar through the long, manifold, and I would drill each individual cylinder to the hole size I wanted for the nitrous. That way, because number one and 5 was always leaning on the Mustang, especially number 1, and I'd enrich them a little bit, but then that way the state change was at the last moment, before the nitrous injected. That the spray bar was the jet, and I always had some good success with those.
Talking about that, think about so those spray bars, especially the longer they get, you get the reversion pattern. I call it the Christmas tree effect. And so, we do a bunch of those spray bars in these blowers, right? Like what we just talked about. And as you get higher up in these tune-ups, the discharge patterns will change in those things. So as a tuner, you have to be aware that the end opposite of that it enters is always leaner on the opposite end. So the end that the nitrous enters will normally be richer. So originally they wouldn't allow. So last year or beginning of this year, they allowed big blocks in ultra. And so, but they were limited to a 110 jet on a spray bar, and the Stinger wasn't allowed. It was supposed to be old school brass or stainless spray bar plate only. And then when we got to Ducks Race, somehow a billet bar plate was allowed. I got a little pissed off about that, but we worked around it. And so I had for my customer, we had built a spray bar, and we were trying to get the most even spray pattern out of it on a 110 jet. So we were manipulating and stepping the discharge holes from the other end. And the problem with doing that is the night before we left for Ducks Race, we still hadn't given this guy's plate. He's driving down from Illinois, and we're just going to put it on the car. I wanted to achieve more pounds per hour out of it, but I literally didn't have enough time to waste another bar. so, once you go too far, that bar's trash. And we kept moving these discharge patterns or holes sizes around, trying to get the most nitrous out of it. And we finally said, okay, well, the pattern looks great here. We're just going to go run it. Well, now they've allowed the stinger in the plate at a 110 jet, and anybody that runs a brass or a stainless spray bar, old school, can run a 125 jet. So now all my customers that were fighting to get the stinger in, I'm telling them, hey, let's keep messing with the spray bar because I can get it. But the thing is if you take that spray bar and we get it for max performance on a 125 jet, and you go through a 136 jet or a 110 jet or something like that, it changes. The pattern is different now. And so that's what I've been trying to tell to people, that the old spray bar technology was great, but it has its place. And the thing about taking these custom spray bars and doing them like that is racers, they always want to recoup their money to invest it into the next thing they're doing, right? So they sell it, and that thing ends up transitioning somewhere else, and somebody's going to burn their shit up because it wasn't paired for what they're doing.
Yeah.
Then it becomes Unabomber. They get it in the mail, it blows their shit up.
Right.
So the
that's the
racer,
great thing about the R&D.
the racer in me wants to know what is when you're talking the jet numbers, pounds per hour, stuff like that. Like example, the tower power. What is the horsepower that thing actually is delivering? Like ballpark.
We're not telling yet.
I like it.
So here's the deal. Anybody that knows me knows that from the very get-go, I have given away free flow data. And some of my competitors didn't give away pounds per hour at all because they basically said the customer is too stupid to understand pounds per hour. And here's the problem. Horsepower numbers are figured off of a formula. Everybody uses different dividers. They may be using a scale. They may be using a load cell. It's just a number. The only thing that makes sense from each company to each company is pounds per hour. And pounds per hour can also correlate over to figuring out your timing numbers. So if you take a company that says a 200 horsepower peel is this, but the system's actually flowing 150 or it's flowing 250, what timing do you put it at? Well, you don't know, but if you have actual pounds per hour numbers in these bigger horsepower cars, it's a lot easier to get to your tune-up quicker and keep from burning it up because that's normally what tears these things up is timing. So it's important that you understand, if you're doing serious racing, you understand pounds per hour tuning to get that ground floor of your tune-up.
Well, not only that, but also your fueling, because a lot of guys are doing, dry. You have to know the pound per hour nitrous to, put a fuel quantity on it, in your standalone.
Yeah,
that's
that's true, but
I like about doing nitrous with the Holly is because pounds per hour translates so immediately and instantly that your fueling is like.
I'm gonna push back a little.
Close. Yeah,
sorry.
I'm gonna push back on that
I
too.
I put a flow meter on one and it was 40% off. So
not only that, their fuel characterization isn't accurate at all.
Yeah, it was. It's
for
off.
nitrous. I've always hated that term pounds per hour because nitrous is only flowing for seconds.
Yeah,
and so
right
now I'm not talking main V. Well, I'm talking the nitrous dry adder table. You can take, if you know your true nitrous flow, you can take that table and pretty much be almost spot on pretty easily if you know what your ratio is.
Yeah,
That's
but I mean, if
talking
you also
about.
know
The
a horsepower
biggest,
number, you can be spot on by dividing your current horsepower by the injector pulse width. I mean, there's 100 ways to do it.
Well,
It's simple, man.
Check this out.
The biggest problem I've seen with Holly is the fuel pressure part of it. It doesn't have a fuel pressure compensation part. So, what it thinks pound per hour, if it's 5 pound per hour off,
you have to build it yourself. Scott actually did a video on that.
I actually have made a video for that. Hopefully we'll have it up at some point.
We're working it up. No, we're going to work on it shortly. As soon as I get back from Blake's class this weekend, we're going to work on that.
If they would just do fuel pressure delta, it would take care of itself.
Yeah.
again,
it works really good because I've used it a bunch.
And a big thing that we always fight is, when you guys are talking about like the pound per hour is the same from company to company. Well, because we'll push more nitrous through the same jet, and then the same kind of thing will happen when you're talking about cold nitrous. that pound per hour will change, or, pound per second will change through the same orifice. So that's not exactly true when you're talking about that it's the same for every company, because
temperature, there's variables.
Yeah, variables
Well,
will
no, a
change.
number is still a number.
So
the pounds per hour number is still a number, even if it's, forget about the size of the hole, especially with cold nitrous, whenever you're compacting the molecule like you are, or the molecule is more calm. Think about it like that.
Right. No, I get that. It's just
number.
you can't say like this orifice is going to flow
Equals this horsepower. Right.
Right. Exactly.
But see, here's the thing that you guys didn't touch base on that I like to point out. So you guys are concentrating on the fuel side of it, right? But think about it like this: with most of these systems now, they have a correction window. So you can give it a ballpark tune-up, and it can still keep you from biting yourself in the ass, and give you some data on how to clean it up. If you miss the timing, you missed it. It's done.
Right.
So
right.
there is, there is no cushion for timing.
No.
And so that's the reason why pounds per hour is even more so important on the timing aspect and knowing the combination of what parts you're working with.
Well, I for one have been bit by 1 degree of timing. More. Every time it seems like that's when you burn them up. You push them hard. You go from 18 to 19 degrees, and you're sitting on the side of the road. So timing is everything. It's relative to life. It's relative to the combustion process. It's where it's at. The start and stop of the combustion process. If you're a little lean, you might get by. You know what I mean? You might put some heat in the cylinder, take a spark plug, and there's another safety factor. The right spark plug will save your piston. 90% of the time, if your setup's correct, you got the right parts, the right plugs. Hopefully you got a little bit of window with your spark plug selection before you burn it up. But you miss the timing, it's a done deal. It'll just it'll start to diesel down through there. It'll light up the plug and it'll keep on burning.
Can I change the subject?
Yeah, that's the reason I always tell them be conservative. You bet.
Tell some of your best hidden nitrous stories from over the years. I know the listeners probably really enjoyed listening to that.
We do, we don't do as much hidden stuff as we used to. We still do the moneymaker system. The funny story behind the moneymaker system is that it started. I had a customer from the Chicago area call me, and God, this was 2000. Let's just say 2003ish, somewhere around there. And he had an EFI application. He wanted a hidden system. We told him, you know what, send us your intake, and I'll figure something out. So he sent it to us. We did it, sent it back to him. Not too late. Later after that, another guy asked things. So whenever we sent it out, we would send a pamphlet that said, hey, because they paid us. They had no clue what they were getting. They just trusted that we would lead them in the right direction. And I thought, I'll never sell another one of these, So I want to say back then we were charging like $750, $800 for a system. So this guy sent me $800 in his intake and no clue what he's getting. And that's just unheard of normally. And so we did one and we did another, and some people would get pissed off because we wouldn't post pictures. And so we sent a pamphlet with it that said, look, you invested your money and trusted us. Whenever it comes time to sell this, please do not post pictures of it online, because people that are wanting it for the hidden aspect, they're going to pay you for that.
Yeah, that's right.
And the people that are just asking for pictures, they just wouldn't know how to find it. And so we would tell them how to install it, and right, exactly, and how to hide it. We made that thing for, I bet 7 or 8 years before another manufacturer caught wind of it and did their own version of it, posted pictures of it all over the place. And I got some people mad at me thinking that we had something to do with that, because I'm surprised it stayed a secret for as long as it did. But with that, we did a bunch of other hidden stuff, and that was just something I enjoyed doing.
I used to love it.
Yeah, and I've in the past we've worked with. It started more in the streetcar stuff. Like whenever I was younger, we'd put some beat down Zets kit or NOS kit on it, And we wouldn't lie. We'd tell them to spray nitrous. We would just have a hidden system that was capable of spraying 400 instead of one that looked like it's capable of spraying 150. So, you just didn't necessarily show all your cards. And then, like on the old C5 Vet, we would hide the bottles behind the tail lights on the frame, pull the rear tail cell off of it, and you could mount 2 10-pound bottles right there. The F bodies, the rear quarter panel where the speaker is, we would take and cut that out, and we could fit a bottle on each side there. And of course, everybody's seen the old Fox body where you would put it in the rear cushion on the back seat. There was always somewhere to hide this stuff, and I'm going to say that the hidden stuff really isn't as popular as it used to be. We still do quite a bit of money makers, but most of the time, the people that were doing money makers for it's because they just want the engine bay clean.
Right. Well,
I did air
if you're not making 1,000 horsepower on the street anymore, it's all for nothing. So you can't really hide 1,000 horsepower very well. So if you're spraying, you're going to be showing.
Well, in today's day and age, with everybody thinking they know what they're doing, most of the time you just be honest with what your combo is, and if you know what you actually are doing, it runs so well that everybody thinks you're lying about your combo, and in all reality, you just know what you're doing, so it runs well.
I built a system for a dirt
power
track car.
management these days. That's for sure.
Yeah. Go ahead, Dan.
Oh, sorry. I said I built a dirt track car, put the bottle in the air cleaner with just one solenoid dry, sprayed on top of the boosters. It had one wire. The air cleaner grounded it. So they could just take the air cleaner off, unplug the wires, they was pulling it up, take the air cleaner, put it in the trailer, put the good air, they would qualify for it. With it, it was worth about 4/10. In some dirt track cars, they put a regular air filter on it when they raced back in the day, hypothetically speaking.
Right.
Hypothetically speaking.
Back in the day,
Well done.
the roll gauges.
Yeah.
I know.
Wayne County.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, the Wayne County Speed Shop tune-up.
Yeah, I know of more than a few systems that didn't have a bottle at all.
That's awesome.
Yeah, where they were putting it in the frame or the cage.
Yeah, they put it in the cage. The old, after the Wayne County tune-up and the Wayne County system was employed on more than a few street cars back in the day. After they found out how they did that.
Yeah. The water
no one
jack
does
to the
that
block.
anymore.
I've seen a lot of things, but there's a lot of different ways to skin that cat.
Yeah.
Well, you remember there for a while.
6-second club.
Go ahead, Dave.
Sorry about that. There for a while, plumbing direct ports, more back in the LT1 stuff than the small block Chevy stuff. Plumbing the direct port underneath the intake manifold, that was a nightmare. I hated doing those. I think we did 2 or 3 of them, and then we started turning them away.
Yeah, where it was 2 complete nozzle systems in the bottom of the port.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, NOS did it that way. Yeah, and it was a nightmare. But not only from that aspect, it was a nightmare for tuning it, for changing the components, just everything in general on that thing was a nightmare. And then everybody that I did it for turned around and showed everybody after they did it. It wasn't like, you just kind of defeated the purpose.
Do you do anything with actually putting, and this might be the moneymaker kit, and I probably could be way off base here, but installing spray bars into an existing intake?
Yeah, we do a lot of spray bar stuff. And that's most of this stuff, especially like even if you look at some of your tunnel ram stuff, we use spray bars inside those tunnel rams for very small tune-ups. Whenever we just ran out of real estate, and we're trying to keep it simple. A lot of the EFI stuff is real common with spray bar stuff. You just got to understand how to tune it, and that's an area where some of these guys miss, And I've tried to explain that to some people, where you just basically tune to the hottest cylinder, and they just don't get it because they're looking at a wideband in a header flange, and so they're just looking for average. And I'm trying to tell them, hey, 1 and 2 is going to be hot. Look at the plugs in those cylinders, and they end up torching it and they don't understand. So we preach that to everybody we do spray bars for. That's one of those areas where.
Go ahead, please.
Where data can get you in trouble,
right?
Because we're so we became so, our technology has gotten so great that we rely on it sometimes instead of some of the grassroots of the tune-up. And whenever you really start pushing these things, right?
Need to read plugs.
Yeah, Scott Clark.
Oh.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Plugs.
Yeah, Scott loves to read plugs.
Yeah.
Come on.
Oh, he loves. He thinks plug reading is the greatest thing in the world.
It's just because I suck at it. That's why I don't like it. I'm not gonna lie.
He says,
nope.
He says, "Hey, McConnell, come over here."
Right?
Back up. I'll put it.
Yeah. McConnell's got
Scott Clark terms.
Yeah.
You need to read those EGT sensors.
No. I'm EGTs and O2s combined. If I've got both EGTs and O2s, I can home in on something real good. But
yeah, that's the thing. The thing is, you have to use all the tools available that you have on a particular setup.
Yeah.
Right, you're exactly right, James.
The spark.
EGTs, let's talk about that. Where's the limit? Because the only way I knew to find a limit was to burn a hole in the piston.
Nah, you can never tell the limit because you don't know what your EGTs are showing you. They could be 400 degrees off with a 60 thousandths difference in depth in the tube. I've seen that. So
right.
Okay, well, going back to pounds per hour, we're stuck on that. The max pound per hour per cubic inch that you should be running in a motor is 5.37, and your tune-up better be dead nuts on, or you're going to eat a piston.
Interesting. I've never heard that metric, but I'm not much of a nitrous guru either.
So
I love absolutes; those are always fun. so
at 5.7, if we just use a nice number like 5, you're saying a 400 cubic inch motor should be able to swallow 2,000 maximum nitrous horsepower.
Pounds per hour.
Pounds per hour. Sorry, 2,000.
There's some determining factors there in the engine.
yeah, it would be 2148, but yeah,
He rounded up.
I just picked the nice number 5 to make it easy.
Oh, at 5, yeah, that'd be 2,000.
2,000 pounds per hour.
Yeah, he rounded
That's
it
a
down.
lot of freaking nitrous.
Yeah.
All I know is we ran a 600 shot on a 5.3 with nothing but a Bewley cam upgrade, and it took it. Whatever that. And they're like, you can't do that, 2,200 pounds per hour. Well,
you want to know the interesting, I'm not a nitrous guy, and I deal with a handful of nitrous.
Sorry.
Smart ass.
Hang on.
And I've dealt with a handful of nitrous guys, and it's always funny to find out, to get feedback off the motor. And one of the things that we found out is on a 320 inch engine, there comes a point where the more nitrous you spray on it, the peak RPM comes down. Like you literally can't get enough duration in the camshaft to get it in the cylinder. And the result and what shows you the choke point of the induction system on the engine is the more that got sprayed, the car went quicker, the sooner they shifted the car. Yeah, it was wild. But the bigger the jets got, the lower the shift point on the transmission got. It was craziest thing to see in my life. It's the craziest correlation I've ever seen on the engine in my life.
Dude, having John Bewley talk nitrous to me is like having Dan Parker read my spark plugs.
Funny, not funny.
Hey, I'm gonna feel it. If the tip's still on it, that means you can good to go for some more.
There you go.
You can feel for the tips, right?
Yeah, that's right. The ground strap's on it. Run it.
Bam.
Somebody said tip.
Oh Lord, help us all!
Sorry to derail that.
Where are we at? John Bewley's a good turbo guy, so I called John Bewley not too long ago back. Give me a good turbo. I'm not a turbo guy. I would call David Vasser in the same retrospect. I need a nitrous tune-up. Call the pros, call the people that specify and what they're doing. That's for sure, and they'll steer you the right way.
Calling me worked out for you though, because that some metaphysical shit and karma started hitting. You called me about getting turbochargers, and the ones you needed showed up like the next day. That was hilarious. I laughed my ass off at that one. That was hilarious.
I think we've all been under the gun waiting on FedEx at the last minute. That's for sure. It's always not a good thing.
Yeah, that was ridiculous, though.
Yeah.
Is there a standard approach when thinking about where the nitrous should be on a port situation, should be introduced relative to where the fuel injectors are in the runners?
I like to put the discharge as close to the valve as possible. So if I can pull the injectors up above the discharge, I do that.
Cool.
Interesting.
Like,
have you seen these? Have you seen the injectors where they're underneath the injector? Like it's like an injector adapter.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Those are terrible.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
They pull a vacuum on the injector. So a bigger injector, they just cause a tuning nightmare.
Interesting. Yeah, because that'll screw up the differential pressure for the injector, won't it?
Yeah, it makes all the sense in the world. Never really thought about it.
Yeah.
I almost wonder also the turbulence that it creates, with two discharges so close together.
Yeah.
And the atomization of the fuel, because nitrous naturally comes out freezing, and fuel really needs some heat to kind of vaporize. So it's
I wonder if anybody's ever tried to do a nitrous system like a sprint car does fuel injectors, where they do the down leg nozzles on the outside of the head, right in the bowl of the intake port.
For the nozzles?
Yeah, put the nitrous nozzles in the outside of the head. Go through the head and just literally have the nozzle in the bowl of the intake port, an inch and a half off the back of the intake valve.
What are you waiting for? Do it.
I don't know.
All right. Yeah. Yeah, they have the CT head, so yeah, you're ready to go.
Yeah,
okay, speaking of some crazy stuff, what about nitrous injectors? Instead of having nozzles, have an injector that could actually pulse or open, etc., to meter a certain amount so you could do nitrous injection in a sense.
You mean like a separate set of DI injectors?
Maybe you can help out.
Well, that's exactly what I was actually thinking about, because DI is naturally like super high pressure anyway. Well, why can't you just plumb a freaking 6-line to the DI pump and just use the DI injectors for direct port nitrous injection?
Guess what? We know somebody who's been playing with that. We know somebody mutually who's been playing with that. He's been quiet about it. I don't think they're there yet, but we may have to get him on the see if he'll ever talk about that. We had a class at his shop a couple years ago.
There's going to be a lot of R&D to figure that out. But Dave, you might have some answers here. When some testing that I had been a part of when we tried to pulse the injector or pulse the solenoid, we were having some major problems with phase change and the actual pressure between the jet and the solenoid. So I know a lot of guys tune with pulse width. Do you see any real benefit other than just knocking a bunch of power away from the car? Is nitrous actually that tunable in a gradual rate by pulse width modifying the solenoid?
We try to use timing more than pulse width. Where we get to a point where we've done everything we can do with timing, then we'll go in and use a progressive in a race car application. On a street car, it's not as easy as ramping timing in and out like that for the average guy, and so we'll use a progressive controller.
Interesting. Well, and the street car guy's probably not banging out 1,200 horsepower worth of extra nitrous either. You know what I mean? So.
Correct. So here, I got a question for you guys.
Go ahead.
So my race car originally had the Holley system with the colon plug, right?
Mm-hmm.
And whenever Henson built this 434, which is Jonathan Cornelson's motor that we put in the car, Henson wanted the colon plug off the car. And so then whenever I talked to Billy Stockland, which is a friend of mine, he told me, yeah, let's go to the MSD distributor. So we put a distributor in a grid in the car with the Holley system. And the reason why I was told is because our timing swings are so drastic with the nitrous application that the colon plug applications just haven't proven themselves yet.
Crap. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that's backwards.
So I've helped some of the Proline customers go coil unplug on the Turbo Pro mods. Go figure. And they're using timing retard for their power management. Yeah, but it's turbos. There's nothing special about nitrous, man.
turbo, sorry.
There's a lot of timing swing in a turbo car. Cylinder pressure is cylinder pressure.
Cylinder pressure.
Yeah. So don't believe any. There's nothing special between one power item and the other than the nitrous tends to have a little bit less combustion stability. But here's the bottom line. Let me, hang on. Let me just give me a minute here, guys. So every single car, I ran into a bunch of guys. Switzer was one who, fuck this coil on plug, blah, blah, blah. Every car I ran into for a while, I was doing some troubleshooting for guys for the Proline, for the Fuel Tech customers, figuring this out. And by the way, they've figured it out. Every single one of them that had problems had noise coupling in either the power or the ground side of the car. It got to the point where I was carrying around an oscilloscope. The guy that would wire the cars, John Holmeyer, he gave me these little adapters to plug into the crank and cam sensor signals, so I'd have I could plug my oscilloscope in and log crank and cam signals, and I could see right away. You can see on a hall sensor if there's a problem on the grounds on the car, and on an oscilloscope you'll see it on the low side signal of a square wave. And if there's a problem on the power side, and it was always something the way the cars were wired. And the phenomenon is noise coupling. And if you know guys who wire up like ambulances and communication systems for fire trucks and cop cars and things like that, or guys who sell Motorola radios, those guys understand this phenomenon really well. And the bottom line is that the coil packs were popping and banging and doing weird shit and hurting parts, because what sucks about a coil pack is you lose the safety of the mechanical distributor to keep it from accidentally firing at 90 before top dead center. Just one hiccup, pop, bang, you're done. Well, listen, man, just something as simple as non-resistor spark plugs can screw with your crank trigger sensor or the triggering to the coils themselves. IGN-1As do not always like non-resistor spark plugs. I tell people to run resistor plugs or resistor boots, and it makes such a huge difference. But long story short, probably 20 Pro mods in around 2014, 2015 that I ran into and fixed something. Radio versus the World card, Pro mod, a couple X275 cars, whatever. That every one of them that were complaining about coil on plug issues, and I'm hearing them, yay, cool, good job, Billy, whatever. But no, it's not that they're not proven, because they're proven on cars that make way, way more power than the nitrous or the screw blown guys are making. And cylinder pressure is cylinder pressure. Literally, the whole issue is guys not understanding noise coupling, or at least I'm going to say 90% of the time, because I never ran into one where I couldn't. I would find stuff like one 8-gauge power cable running from the battery up to a relay panel. Okay, this is how a lot of guys were wiring their cars up to this point. And then they would take nitrous solenoid power off that relay panel. They would take ECU power off that relay panel. They would take crank trigger 12 volts off that panel. Okay, and what they're doing is they're combining the power draw all on that common wire that's 8 feet long running back to the battery. And that's coupled noise. You can put an oscilloscope on that, and you can see what's going on. You're making your ECU and your crank trigger fight for good, clean power. With every single device that consumes power leaves a signature on the wire all the way back to the battery. Okay, and the more current that device draws, the more that signature gets left on there. And so what happens is devices that draw very little current, it's kind of like drinking from a fire hose or a fire hydrant, right? So long story short, watch my webinar. I have a webinar on power and grounds, or I can talk about it more offline. I don't want to bore people, but the bottom line, I think the reason those guys had problems with coil on plug is not because it's not proven. It's because they don't have the experience to understand what's going on. And God, it just drives me nuts when people don't own the mistake. Drives me nuts. Dude, I bricked 2 frickin' Holley ECUs this weekend at Skog and Dickey because I had 8 channels of O2 sensor drawn off the same wire as the ECU power. And literally when I turned it off, everything got better. Communications picked up. Sorry, I don't know who's making all that noise in the background. I apologize for whoever's having to hear that. But anyway, so it just drives me nuts when people don't own the mistake. They say, oh, yeah, them coil packs, they're just not ready for prime time yet. No, it's your lack of experience with them. Look, there are guys making 10.5 horsepower per cubic inch on those IGN-1A coil packs, okay? You come to me when your 670-inch motor is making 6,700 horsepower on spray, and the IGN-1A coil packs, inductive coil packs, will light that off just fine. if they're properly triggered.
You don't think a nitrous motor has more peak pressure than a boosted motor?
No, I don't. You know what? So it may have more peak pressure, but less average pressure. No.
Well, think about this. Think about this though. When is that thing trying to ignite that mixture though? The peak cylinder pressure is after it's already started to, combust.
Exactly.
So if anything, it's probably got less cylinder pressure than
exactly during the ignition point. So your peak pressure actually happens. Okay, so and again,
why do you get that gnarly torque spike on a nitrous hit?
That has more to do with what the flame front does and how it burns in the cylinder than anything else.
Yeah, I can see the nitrous being injected itself doesn't actually create, any, normal amount more cylinder pressure prior to the ignition point. So and that's where like a boosted setup is a little bit harder because it's actually pressurizing that, incoming.
Sorry,
charge.
I got to interrupt, man. Whoever's molesting their microphone, please, guys, put it on mute. I'm trying to hear people talk. I'm just getting. Sorry. Anyway,
My microphone is so cute.
Yeah, I know, right? I don't know what's going on there, but please, there we go. Thank you, whoever that was. No, so James brought up a good point, Dave. Yeah, so what happens is, and I don't know about you, but I've actually put combustion pressure analysis. Nice. I've actually put combustion pressure sensors. I've had them on a nitrous motor. And typically nitrous has a quicker, higher spike in combustion pressure after it's lit, but a shorter or less average pressure, but more peak pressure. That's typical of nitrous. Okay.
It's just basically more violent initially, right?
It is, and that's why they have a tendency for more combustion instability. That's why you don't for a given power level that you've increased the power of an engine, you run less timing on a nitrous motor than you can do on anything else because you run into combustion stability.
Timing sensitive.
Yeah,
which is also why you want more nitrous specific fuels.
Yeah,
if you can
slow the burn rate. Sure.
Yep.
Scott, post that video tonight. You was talking about the coil packs and grounds and wiring. That'd be a good thing.
Well, that's a webinar. They got to pay $20 to watch because the stupid thing's so god blessed expensive. But it's on RealTuners.com in the store. You can go in there and check it out. And I just have people stream it. The reason they got to pay $20 for it is because it's so damn expensive to host.
Store link so that people know where to go. To find
I sure will do that.
Yeah.
I sure will do that. You can watch 5 minutes of the preview, but I'm dead serious about the noise coupling. That is my thing. Getting rid of misfires is my thing. And it just drives me nuts when I'm a professional tuner. Just Google me. Those guys talk about they can't make coil packs works, right? We all know who I'm talking about.
Guys think they have to have a pro mag on something.
Yeah, exactly, dude. I tell you what, a pro mag deliver about 20 amps worth of spark current or energy per an event. At freaking 13 volts, a IGN 1A will deliver 19 and a half. And Delgado is all over this. He's not on here tonight, but you step him up to 16 volts. Sorry. And also, an inductive spark is way longer than a capacitive spark. So, I mean, just don't get me going.
And then you don't have the range of spark control that you have with an IGN or any kind of coil.
That's what I was getting ready to touch base on the power management side of it. You can, instead of having to kill holes, to power manage.
15 degrees of maximum change you can do on a distributor versus 45, 50 degrees on a coil.
Yeah, I mean, you could fire that shit 50 degrees after top dead center if you wanted to shoot some big flames out the exhaust, but
anyway.
That's the coolest thing I heard all night.
Big flames. Yeah.
I love me some blue flames.
Yeah.
Gotta have the flames.
I love me some flames. Well, all right, so we need to wrap it up here pretty soon. Malone, why don't you talk a minute about your new business that you started up?
Well, I'm going to just try to do my own thing. Been a lot of places, seen a lot of things. I think, I'm ready to branch out and take care of some customers, on my own behalf or on our own behalf. Hopefully I can, from a small shop kind of atmosphere, not grow too big for your britches and be able to give the one-on-one with the customer that I think a lot of people crave and deserve out there. It's easy to get diluted out there. When there's 100 cars in the shop, some of the one-on-one experiences are where it's at. So that's what we're going to try to do.
Where's that in the name so everybody knows?
Malcal, www.malcal.com, down here in Gates, Tennessee. about 40 miles north of Memphis racetrack. So
Nice.
right down here in God's country.
Yep. So we got somebody down there. Brent's good with standalones. He's good with the factory computers. That's awesome. He's got you covered.
When did you move
I
there?
appreciate it. Oh, what's that?
When did you move there?
It's been about a year ago now. Just coming quite right up on a year. Did some work on some Nitrous Pro Street cars in NMCA. Won a championship, so that was great. So now that's all over and done with, and we're going to try to do our own thing.
Good deal.
Cool.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Scott, go ahead, please. I'm sorry.
I said I think we all get bit by the drag racing bug, and being up in northern Indiana didn't give us a chance to get the racetrack as much as we wanted, and so that grew on me, and decided I want to go do a little more drag racing, and one thing leads to the other, and here we are. So
right on.
we're blessed to be here, and blessed to be having an opportunity to work on some cars.
Good deal. We'll send some work your way for sure, man. I'm thinking about find some remote tuning to get some help with. I need help with that.
Yeah, for sure. We like to tune stuff. James is a great tuner out there. There's a lot of people out there that need help, and as long as you can keep that one-on-one with the customer and help them along the way, it'll be a better outcome for everybody.
Yeah, there's plenty of business out there because, geez, we're swamped, and Lord, there's kind of a need for more tuners, and that's a part of why we're doing this class that we've been having. So.
Yeah, that circles back around the whole thing, and the internet's making it a lot better. Is the public service announcement is this part is bad. Don't buy those $150 injectors off eBay. You're gonna have problems. Ask the other people. Post in a public group, and I think you get the same answer. So guys will get sidetracked real easy, buy the wrong parts, put together the wrong combo, and spend a lot of money and spend a lot of time, and come out with garbage. So. Definitely need to educate the people out there, and it's sometimes hard to do when you get so busy and so big. So,
yeah,
definitely want to be there for the customer and steer them in the right direction.
Yep.
Key.
You got a ton of experience that'll help them out. We got to wrap it up, man.
Right
We're
on.
like 10 minutes over. Thanks, Brent Malone. Appreciate it, dude. We'll talk to you guys soon. Tell Dina we said hi and the kids.
Yeah,
Thanks,
for
man.
sure. Thanks for having me. It's been a great time, and we'll look forward to coming on again.
We'll get you back on for sure. Mr. Vasser, thanks for your help,
Thanks,
dude.
guys.
Everybody go check out Nitrous Outlet.
Yeah, go check out Nitrous Outlet, and also check out the post I put on my page we were trying to do a little bit of a fundraiser there to get things going. So go ahead.
And look at your bottles. All the racers, look at your bottles. Go on the Nitrous Outlet. Look how to find what your manufacturing date is and your safety dates, and think about turning those bottles in for the exchange program. Donate $10 to Blake for every bottle. Help him with his GoFundMe and help out another wounded racer.
And you don't have to mail those to Nitrous Outlet. You can go and meet Dave at the track.
Bingo.
That's right.
Dave actually goes to the track. Isn't that cool? He's not one of those guys that sells a product that he's not sure how to use. Oh, don't get me started there. Don't get me started.
Careful. But we do have to post the schedule of what tracks Dave is going to be at, because I know he wants to see all these folks.
Dave's like, I don't know.
That's where, like, we were supposed to be in Kansas City for the kickoff party, and then we bailed on that because we're short staffed at the shop. And so we actually have a listed schedule where we're supposed to go and win, but we don't post it because it's so iffy right now because we're struggling to get enough help at the shop.
So you mean I'm not going to see you next weekend?
What's next weekend?
It's the kickoff party, reschedule.
No, actually, next weekend's the 27th, right?
Right, 28th. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm going to be at Extreme Raceway for Redemption.
Where are y'all located at?
That's in Dallas.
No, where are you located?
We're in
Your shop?
Waco.
Waco.
We're in Waco.
I got you.
So we're already committed on that one. Then we're committed to some of this stuff, and you know what? It's gotten to where there's so many events stacked so close to each other.
Yeah.
That's the reason we didn't do any of the James's of the No Prep Kings or the new No Prep series that the 405 guys were doing. We didn't make it to any of those events last year because they were so quick and so set up. We were already committed to all these other races. So I told them this year, try to get it figured out sooner if they can.
Yeah. Good problems to have with so much drag racing going on, though.
Right.
Oh, no
That's
doubt.
exactly the right point. We're living in great times here, which to Dan's deal, I think everybody who's on this podcast, listening to this podcast, needs to think about how we support vocational education.
Yes.
Because all of us who run businesses in this space are having the same problem with finding qualified individuals. I mean, we're having trouble finding people who can deburr a caliper. So, there's entry level jobs and secondary level machinist jobs and all the other things. So we've got to support vocational education in this country.
Yeah.
Even though the education establishment
God,
has
was it
decided
Mike
that
Rowe's lectures on
everybody's
this?
going to
Yeah.
everybody's going to college. So if you have a chance to expose, the excitement and the interest of what everybody who's on this podcast and listen to this podcast does with
Gets to
racing
do
and
for a living.
cars,
Yep.
and we get to do for a living.
Amen.
People are excited about it, but they don't know how to get educated. So find out who's doing that in your neighborhood. Go spend time, talk to them about what your business does. It's
Spend
a
a
good
day at the local
recruiting
high school.
strategy.
Yeah.
Spend a day at the local high school talking to the machine shops, weld, auto shops, and expose the kids to what the possibilities are.
Yeah, absolutely. I would not be as unskilled as I am today without all the welding and shop classes I took. I'm joking a little, but you know what I'm saying. It's just like
We've
it was an
seen your
important part of
welds.
my life. Yeah, come on now. I'm okay with it.
It's
Nick.
all right, man. It's better than I do.
But I mean, this is serious business because we've got to help create the people that are going to work, at our businesses going forward.
Right on.
Off soapbox. My apologies.
No, you've done good, man. That's a really good point. That's and it's funny because Dan's on here and he's teaching a high school shop class, and I mean it's.
I've seen that, Dan. That's awesome.
Yeah. So
tonight I had a guy come over. He did some welding. So while he was here, I machined a bong, and me and my buddy I told him how to bend the tube to make my toe strap hook to go through my roof. I drilled the roof by myself before they even showed up.
Nice.
Like, got the drill, huh? I'm like, well, it is what it is.
Don't get wrapped up in
dangerous if I could see.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Well,
y'all got that whole line of conversation got me feeling lucky after what happened with me this week.
What happened?
So he about got killed on the road 15 times because he can't drive.
No, that's not the one I'm talking about, you dork.
Well, explain it to us.
LJMS is growing, and I actually found somebody.
Yeah.
I actually found somebody to come in and help. Derek Sanders.
Welcome
will be
aboard,
starting
Derek.
With me.
Hell yeah.
On the 30th of April of this month, and so the sales staff at LJMS doubled.
Nice.
That's a hell of a game for this year for people.
I'm fixing to call you guys then.
Oh hell! Right? Doubling the staff.
That's 150% increase.
Does this mean that LJMS is finally going to return my phone calls?
Don't even start.
Oh, they do that?
Don't even start with
Can
me.
I get some
You
free
haven't called me in like
stuff?
5 weeks.
I'll get you
I don't even wanna
exposure.
hear it.
Hey, Billy, did you see my Super Dave Osborne post on your Facebook thing today?
No, man, I probably missed it. Today was
Yeah,
a
go
pretty
check that
crazy
out.
day on the phone. I'll go look at it here in a few. Look at it here in a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty funny. Today was a pretty busy day on Facebook and a pretty busy day on the phone too.
Cool.
I don't know. Did anybody have a busier day than? I mean, I don't know. My day kind of was weird. I started off on the dyno at Skog and Dickey, dude. I was making polls at 7:30. It was 8:00 this morning, my time, and then had to jet out of there and hopped a plane. Sat at the Fort Worth. I did get to hang out in the Admirals Club for a couple hours. That was nice. Had a phone
I was
call
going to
with
say,
Bill.
does this include the
No,
Admirals Club
it does.
free
All
drinks
right.
part of
I
the
suck.
conversation?
Yeah, you're right. I didn't work as hard as Bewley. You're right. I rode in airplanes.
I mean, if you spend 15 minutes in the Admirals Club, does that? I mean, that pretty much negates any comment one can make about how hard one worked
Right.
that day.
I had
right?
2.5 hours in the Admirals Club today. All right, I suck. You're right. I don't work as hard as you guys.
You can't. Yeah,
Stupid.
that's-
It's a tuner thing, dude. I don't get my fingers dirty. I get a pedicure every 2 weeks. No.
Right?
What?
No, I don't.
What?
I'm kidding.
Well, at least you get made fun of for dirt being under your fingernails if you post a picture on Facebook or
Never
something,
happens. Unless like every
Yeah,
2 years I
exactly.
do the timing belt on one of my Hondas. Everybody makes fun of me. I actually do a little bit of work.
Yeah, you and Shane T are on that back channel about where to get the best mani petties. Yeah,
Right. Right. Lovely.
That's hilarious.
All right, we got to wrap it up, you guys. So thanks everybody for listening tonight. It's been cool. Thank you for our guest tonight. It's good to have the Medijasic brothers. Good to have Mr. Vasser on here again, our Nitrous guru. It was awesome to have Mr. Loans, Mo Loans, and obviously Brent Malone. Anyway, so class is coming up. Check them out at RealTuners.com. I don't really have a commercial to play for you tonight, but I think it's if you got questions, we've started adding some dates. Go check it out at RealTuners.com. Click on live EFI tuning classes. Other than that, that's about it. Hope you all had a good night. I sure had a good week. I'm literally turning around and headed to Blake Hughes' shop at 417 Motorsports. It is sold out, and there's a huge waiting list. Sorry, folks that are on the waiting list. There's another class in June, but we are going to do some serious Holly tuning. We got a couple of kick-ass cars coming up if you're coming to that event. So just we'll see those of you that are coming out to the class at Blake Hughes' shop this weekend. Everybody else, have a good week. We'll talk to you next Wednesday, and peace out.